Well, hello, everybody. Sorry for the long wait, but I am here now. This is your boy Shrimp, starting with another stream for Art with Adventure. For the last time that we did our live, sorry if I didn't do any Monster Hunter Rise. If you are curious, for my last for for this session, because yeah, it didn't felt really good for for that night to start streaming. So yeah, I kind of skipped that day. So here we are, another episode of Art Without Adventure. So uh, without any further ado, let's get back to the sketching. Once again, I'm gonna explain that it will be the continuation of this the female sketches over here. Yeah, hopefully I can finish three. If not, two would be still be good. Uh, yeah, gotta be quick for this one. Mm, let's just see what I can do. But usually I'm very good in sketching women, so depends. I might finish this quickly. I actually, yeah, last time when I was drawing the panda, it was really quick. But yeah, it took time drawing most of the men because yeah, like I said, not very used to drawing men usually. Uh, but here we are. We're gonna finish this art from last time when we draw this skinny dude over here. I really like how it turned out, and let's just see what will come out of this four ladies over here. Uh, Try to make this monstrously skinny lady if we can. But anyways, we'll go back to um, our audiobook for tonight. Will still be the Dead Mage Who Doesn't Want a Fourth Time. Will be chapter 66. The yeah. So we are in chapter 66, still in volume 3, I believe, and we're gonna work out our way up to the this chapter also. Let's see what will happen now that we have finished the side stories. I mean, this will be yeah, it will be the beginning of the this series on new villains. Probably there will be some new plans for Vandally and uh, his plans also that we need to understand. But yeah, well, it's enough talking, and let's just get to the meat of this stream already. So, guys, if you enjoy this show, please leave a like and subscribe if you want more of this tutorial of me sketching while you listen to some audiobooks. Just a reminder that uh, you can read this on your own in Novels.pl. If you want to see this, the description is down below, and check out more of other light novels or visual novels. Oh, visuals. I mean, web novels that are been registered in this website. It's very good. A lot of stories, a lot of stuff that you can learn or want to discover if you are curious. And yeah, if you enjoy stories, this is a very good website. Okay, anyway, back to the drawing now, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Chapter 66. The bell signaling the end sounds clear, but it sounds unpleasant to a god. About 4 months had passed since the pillaging of the farming villages, and it was now well into summer. It was a season where the air conditioning of demon lights that absorbed heat from their surroundings was absolutely essential. Vandali, having now turned 6 years old, was spending his time busily in Talersheim. Establishing systems for agriculture and textile production was a great deal of work. First, the crops that he had stolen along with their entire fields were growing well too well. Since the climate would change greatly from crossing the mountain range, he had first planned to use death attribute magic to prevent the crops from dying while performing selective breeding. However, the crops quickly adapted to Talersheim's soil. It was likely that because they had been growing in the soil of a former devil's nest, they were compatible with the soil of Talersheim, which was a semi-devil's nest. Wheat could be harvested 3 months after being planted, immediately eliminating the impending shortage of grain in Talersheim. The other vegetables were able to be harvested earlier than normal as well, though for some reason, they kept producing more flowers without wilting and using their roots as legs to move around. It seemed that the cause of this was the use of fertilization on unused monster parts to produce fertilizer and the addition of Vandali's mana. Well, I suppose it's fine. Vandali had no complaints, as the crops they produced were good quality and they didn't have to be constantly tended to like normal crops. But I do wish that they would stop attacking me, as if to say, have a taste of me, whenever I go to look at them. No matter how good quality they are, onions are harsh to eat raw. And please stop throwing tomatoes at me. There isn't a festival for that in our nation. Stopping them all is quite difficult, Vandali complained as he used his arms that had been branched and extended with spirit form transformation to catch and collect the produce that the monster plants were picking off themselves and throwing at him. This repeated itself numerous times before they finally stopped. It seemed that plants that threw their own fruits were dangerous. The wheat, root crops and potatoes hadn't turned into monsters yet. On the other hand, the production of textiles had gone well up to a certain point. Get up. With the same principle that he applied in creating wood golems, Vandali was able to manipulate the raw materials with golem transmutation. Of course, he hadn't been able to produce textiles straight from the plant, but he had successfully extracted fibers and created threads after boiling and softening them. He had been able to create linen with plants from Borkus's sub-dragon dungeon. He had also produced fluffy, warm wool similar to sheep's wool from the belly fur of needle wolves and something similar to silk from cemetery bees. Cemetery bees didn't make cocoons that completely surrounded their pupae as the bees and hornets of Earth did. However, when larvae turned into pupae, they placed lids over the chambers containing the pupae. The cemetery bees created those lids with threads. They were lids large enough to cover chambers containing pupae that would become 30-centimeter long adults. He was able to harvest slightly more silk than silkworm cocoons would yield. Of course, the lids would be broken once the cemetery bees emerged from the chambers. But for Vandali, who could even create boards using sawdust, turning the broken lids into golems, restoring them to their original shape and creating threads from them wasn't a difficult task. Vandali named this slightly honey-colored silk honey silk. Well, it's only making threads and cloth that's going well, though. The spinning wheel golems could create threads. With the looms, which were also golems, cloth wasn't a problem, either. As for dyes, by boiling down fallen leaves and branches of immortal treants, he had access to numerous colors. The resulting cloth was of excellent quality even in Eleonora's eyes. If it were to be taken to the Commerce Guild, the merchants would be flooding in to buy it, but in the end, it was just cloth, nothing more. They weren't clothes. Making clothes and accessories is difficult, isn't it? Vandali remarked. Well, I suppose so, Zadorus agreed. If it's loincloths, even I can make them, said Vigoro. No, those don't need to be sewed, do they? Saria pointed out. If my wife was here, she would be able to tailor simple clothes, said Sam. Your daughters might somehow manage, said Borkus. Everyone lacked the experience and knowledge to tailor clothes from cloth. Cloth was a valuable item that they almost never got their hands on, so most of their clothes were made from leather and fur. The undead titans of Talersheim hadn't had contact with the outside world for a long time. They hadn't had the time to be concerned about their attire. Though there were some who could do basic sewing, like Ritu and Saria, there were no needles or craftsmen capable of making clothes from scratch. Vandali wasn't much better. The only knowledge he had was what he had learned in home economics classes at school. If he remembered those times, he might be able to make something like an apron. Even the researchers who researched the textiles of origin weren't experts in creating clothes from the textiles. "Well, I suppose if I acquire skills, I'll be able to make all kinds of things," said Vandali. With skills, he might be able to somehow figure out how to make the clothes he had seen on Earth. In the end, it was decided that he would go through trial and error with everyone for other things, such as Kantui. "You have acquired the farming and clothing skills." There were many spirits lined up in front of Vandali, who was sitting on the throne in the audience room. They were the spirits that had been inside the undead expedition army that attacked Balchburg. They had taken over 4 months to return. However, those present here were those whose personalities hadn't completely collapsed due to the long time since their second deaths and the journey back, around only 100 of them. It seemed that since they didn't count as Vandali's followers, 4 months passing without death attribute magic protecting their spirit forms had caused most of them to be reduced to letting out wordless groans. "Well done, everyone. With this, I will forgive you for the sin of attacking Talersheim," Vandali declared. The spirits cheered. They felt happy from the bottom of their hearts at the fact that they would formally be accepted as part of those under Vandali's command. "Now then, General Chazer, please show them the way," Vandali ordered. "Yes, Your Majesty." As Chazer appeared, wearing a military uniform with decorations placed proudly on his chest, the spirits reacted in 2 different ways. The great majority of them cheered at being reunited with their former boss, while a small number of them had their already collapsed faces collapsed further with an expression of surprise. "Chazer, you're the general?" said Langil Morvid, the head of the smaller group. Chazer had been the second in command due to having born in one of the Empire's vassal nations, so his unexpected promotion caused Morvid's eyes to open so wide that his eyeballs looked as if they would fall from his sockets. Chazer chuckled in response to Morvid's words. Well, if it isn't the former Supreme Commander, Morvid Dono. It has been a while. What is the meaning of this, Chazer? You were an enemy of Vandali-sama, just like me. So why have you become the general? Morvid demanded. Fufafu, the Eclipse King is a forgiving person, said Chazer. He has acknowledged my work and bestowed me with decorations as well as the position of general. How could this be? Though Morvid seemed unable to believe it, Chazer had in fact been very useful. Chazer hadn't been a super-capable commander, nor had he possessed unrivaled fighting strength. However, his impressive ability when it came to office work had been preserved even after becoming an undead. He knew how to organize an army and its supplies, and was knowledgeable about the structure of each fort in the Mage Shield Nation as well as the tactics that each nation employed. He was also quite well informed in things outside of military business, such as law and commerce. He would be an important capable dead person for Vandali from now on. Borkus was strong, reliable and trustworthy, but fundamentally unable to do desk work. Now then, proud soldiers of His Majesty. His Majesty shall grant you new bodies. You will fight alongside the Black Bull Knight's Order and myself, for the sake of the Eclipse King. Chazer declared. Vandali hadn't included the Black Bull Knight's Order in the disposable army. He was having them act as instructors to teach the Titans and Ghouls how to conduct large-scale battles effectively. And since they were knights, they were able to do desk work even if not on the same level as Chazer, so they would be handy to have around from now on. Incidentally, Vandali had kept Flark, Jenny and Messara, the three who had been Riley's slaves, because each of them had their uses. Their personal histories were what they were, so he had to be careful with them, but they were obedient for now. The spirits of the former expedition army grew even more excited. Having heard that Chazer was the general and that the Black Bull Knight's Order still remained, it seemed that they had gained hope for their future lives. I will not accept this. I will not accept you as the general. Morvid shouted, but in the next moment, his voice wavered. So are you saying that you are dissatisfied with my choice? Asked Vandali. The air in the audience chamber changed as all of the spirits directed angry glares at Morvid, as if they were looking at their sworn enemy. Hi. No, I appointed Chazer as my general and bestowed him decorations. Everything was done through my authority and will. If you are dissatisfied with that, that means that you are dissatisfied with me, doesn't it? That is, I apologize. Please forgive me for my inappropriate words. Morvid lowered his head, but Vandali remained indifferent, not speaking any words of forgiveness. Chazer extended Morvid a helping hand. My apologies, Your Majesty. Please forgive my subordinate for his insolence. Morvid's spirit trembled in response to Chazer's sneering voice, but he was ignored. Are you sure you want to take him as your subordinate? Vandali asked. It sounds like it would be troublesome. Of course, Chazé replied. Making use of the useless is also one of the duties of those who stand at the top. I understand. I'll leave the personnel affairs to you, Chazé. Haha, I am grateful and happy. Now then, stand. You will now start again as a private. The former General Morvid's spirit was taken away by Chazé and his subordinates. As a spirit, he couldn't hide his true emotions, so he was wearing an incredibly furious expression, but it was simply humorous. The large number of spirits of those born in the Mage Shield Nation went with them, followed by the spirits of those from the Amid Empire who were wearing pitiful expressions. Many of them were to become living armors and cursed carriages. Incidentally, the rest of the spirits whose personalities had collapsed were turned into golems and cursed weapons. Either way, Vandali couldn't avoid preparing bodies for them. He was unable to turn them into astral-type undead like ghosts and wraiths that consisted entirely of spirit form. Before, the reason for this was that Vandali's death attribute magic skills level was simply too low, but the problem with his ability had now been solved. The problem now was the spirits that he was using as materials. To turn spirits into astral-type undead, the spirit must possess extraordinary emotions of defeat. Without anger, hatred, regret and grief, they cannot become undead. Due to the effects of death attribute charm, those killed by Vandali felt happiness at having been killed. Rather than speak words of hatred, they would bow their heads and say, "Please allow us to repay you for the favor you have done in killing us." They were impossible to turn into undead consisting only of spirit form. Leaving that aside, keeping up with this farce is tiring, said Vandali. It was necessary, but not very interesting. The earlier conversation was necessary to have all the spirits gather under Chazé. If the hierarchy wasn't clearly established in front of everyone, things might be fine when Vandali was around, but there would be no telling what would happen if he went to the Orborn Kingdom. Though the spirits of those born in the Empire were few in number, Vandali needed to make them understand the chain of command. Factional disputes and having members of the group drag each other down like in the Demon King's army would simply be troublesome. Perhaps it would have been best for Vandali to break Morvid's soul, but if he used his last resort right from the beginning and something were to happen after that, he would have been in trouble. That final resort would be used if Morvid did something completely unforgivable. Vandali could only pray that he was smart enough to express his dissatisfaction through no more than complaining to his superiors during his spare time. Now then, Riley and Gordon, step forward, said Vandali, calling out to the two remaining spirits. You called me, God. Gordon's expression was that of a lunatic. He-heh. Riley approached with twisted laughter. Certain feelings welled up within Vandali as he looked at them. Vandali gave a small cough and forced himself to ignore the taste of blood mixed with his saliva as he continued speaking. I have a favor to ask of the two of you. Gordon and Riley gave a respectful bow. Please instruct me as you wish, said Gordon. I offer you all that I have. Tell me to do whatever you want. Hi, my spear, as long as I have my spear, I can kill anyone, said Riley. Ah, it was really impossible. Be destroyed? Vandali used spirit form transformation on both of his arms and plunged one into each of Riley and Gordon's spirits. The two of them screamed and froze in astonishment. Jaira. What are you? Why? Gua. God. Why, you said that you would forgive my sins, Oagyagaga. Yes, I did forgive you for your sins this time. But I haven't forgiven you for what you did to my mother. As their faces twisted in despair and agony, Vandali swallowed the mixture of saliva and blood in his mouth as he continued speaking. I did consider it. I thought about enduring it. I did my best. But in the end, it's impossible. It wasn't my fault. Riley screamed. I simply obeyed my teachings. Gordon gasped. I understand that, said Vandali. I've known for a long time that you aren't to blame. Riley wasn't at fault. He was simply an adventurer. Joining the extermination force to wipe out the ghouls in the Devil's Nest forest, joining this expedition army, using his criminal slaves as shields, capturing and handing over a woman who had given birth to a damp to religious fanatics, none of it was his fault. None of them were crimes in the society that he had lived in. They were deeds that were not punishable by law. The fact that he made deals with vampires was the one serious crime that would be worthy of capital punishment, but it wasn't as if Vandali was obligated to execute him in place of the Empire and Mage Shield Nation. Gordon wasn't at fault, either. He had simply followed Alder's doctrine and exterminated vampires and those obeying them. Trying to kill a damper, using whips and brands to inflict gruesome torture on a woman who had given birth to that damper and making a show of burning her alive in public, he couldn't be blamed for any of these. In fact, these were good acts that deserved praise from the people of the empire and its vassal nations. Indeed, the society he had belonged in and his position had simply been different to Vandali's. An undead Gordon and Riley would be useful. They didn't have bodies, but if Vandali provided them with new ones, they would become capable fighters. That was why he had thought about various things and tried to endure his emotions for 4 months, but it was impossible. It's so impossible that my status effect resistance skills level has increased because of the stress it's caused me, said Vandali. Just by thinking about forgiving you, a hole opened in my stomach and I even threw up a little blood earlier. It cannot be. Agagagagagaga. When Vandali stopped to think about it, it was only natural that the perception of good and evil would differ in different societies and positions. He remembered that even on Earth and in Origin, those in different societies and positions killing each other was something that happened every day. So then, was there a need for Vandali to try to endure? Perhaps if he was planning to enlighten the people of Lambda with some kind of knowledge, then enduring it might be best. He should forgive these two. But what Vandali wanted to do was pursue his own happiness. He had no intention of going through the trouble of enlightening the world in a self-sacrificing way. If forgiving them and accepting them was impossible, there were other options such as using them as golems, burying them somewhere or releasing them. But the more Vandali thought about these options, the more they became out of the question. Riley and Gordon were far more dangerous than Orby, the hunter who had ratted out Darsa, whose spirit Vandali had abandoned underground in the forest near Ivbigia. If he abandoned their souls in random places and they were recovered by Rod Corti, Alda, Upion or Hihiriush Hukaka, it was possible that Vandali would have to face them again. That would still be fine, but it was also possible that they would cause harm to everyone from some faraway place where Vandali couldn't see them. Vandali didn't know what gods were capable of. However, he believed that gods were malicious. He knew how cruel and vicious they were. As Gordon had used the skill called Familiar Spirit Descent, a skill that allowed what would be called an angel on Earth to possess his body, there was no doubt that Alda had taken notice of him. That was why Vandali couldn't take that risk. And most importantly, I hate you, he said. Jaiwa. Gordon and Riley's unpleasant screams that sounded like shards of glass grinding against each other stopped with a clear, cracking sound. Their spirits collapsed, and the fragments of their souls that resembled particles of light began to fade away. The moment he saw this, Vandali felt joy from the bottom of his heart. The exhilarating, cool, refreshing feeling of having made the world a little cleaner that he had felt when he had broken Sir Krent's soul. Now then. 5 enemies left to take revenge on. Hines and his companions, Earl Thomas Palpabek and the pure-breed vampire Gabberman. Even though he had omitted Alda and Yipion, as he wasn't sure whether the gods existed in a place he could kill them, this was quite a prominent list of enemies. Vandali had a long road ahead of him. Well then, a toast to celebrate our victory in this war, said Vandali. To our victory. There had already been a celebration after they had returned from destroying the cultivated land, but now that everything is over, a new victory party was being held. 4 months ago, the main feature had been hamburgers consisting of geeko eggs, mince made from a combination of dinosaur and orc meat, and the mountains of hard bread that the expedition army had been using as food. It was before onions had been harvested, so Vandali had felt like there was something missing, but everyone had enjoyed them. It seemed that cooking with minced meat hadn't been invented yet. And the main feature today was the contents of the bowls of everyone present ramen. This resembles udon and pasta, but it is completely different, isn't it? Zadyrus remarked. Delicious. It's so delicious, said Borkus. Vandali had finally succeeded in creating the lye water that was crucial for producing the distinct texture of the noodles in ramen. With this, he just needed to make noodle-making machines and come up with something for the tear sauce and dashi to make ramen. It probably couldn't compare to the taste of ramen made by famous shops that had long lines of customers on Earth, but Vandali did think that it was better than the instant noodles that he had eaten before. But Vandali did think that it was better than the instant noodles that he had eaten before. The noodles are good, but the soup is really delicious. Van, how did you make this? Asked Bazdier. I took the time to slowly produce dashi from dinosaur bones, said Vandali. The Kyukatsu ramen had dashi resembling dashi made from chicken bones, but with a richer flavor. Incidentally, carnivorous dinosaur bones produced a peculiar flavor while herbivorous dinosaur bones produced a light aftertaste. Plesiosaur bones produced a strangely fish-like flavor. Botchan, you've been rewarded for the hard effort and years of research, said Saria. I suppose it's been around 3 years, said Rita. Lye water is harder to make than a disease, isn't it? Rita, I don't know about putting it that way, said Vandali. Botchan, I think this ramen lacks ketchup, said Saria. You make good use of it, don't you, Saria? King, what about the tofu? Braga, putting tofu in ramen would be quite daring. Fu gogo goba, I have no idea what you're saying. There was plenty for additional helpings, but everyone was eating so much that Vandali was starting to feel uneasy. Vansama, said Tara. Even if you do not do that, we can. Well, this is training as well, said Vandali. In the kitchen, there were several Vandalias floating in the air, busily making ramen. Vandali's spirit, which had left his body with out-of-body experience, had split into multiple. With materialization used on both arms, as well as the use of the parallel thought processing and long-distance control skills, he was doing multiple people's worth of cooking. The preparations have all been done, so all that's really left to do is cooking the noodles, isn't there? And then they just need to be served in bowls. The sherbet for dessert is ready to be served as well. It would be helpful if you could use only one person to talk, said Eleonora. Eleonora, I'm just one person, you know? Said all three Vandalias at once. Vandali then realized that when he was working like this, to others, it appeared that there were many of him. For him, it didn't feel much different from increasing his number of heads, however. Each Vandali was Vandali, and their memories and consciousness was unified. They didn't possess independent wills and egos, nor did they have conversations among themselves. There are so many Vansamas. Since there are so many, it should all right for me to take one away, isn't it? No. There are limits on the distance they can be separated from me, so please don't do that, Tara. Currently, a few dozen meters was the limit at which Vandali's clones could be maintained away from the main body containing his soul. This distance would probably increase if his long-distance control skill leveled up. It would be perfect for creating alibis in murder cases, though Vandali could only imagine a future where a fierce-looking detective would say, since you can do this, it would have been possible for you to commit the crime. Perhaps he was just too pessimistic. I suppose it's time to hand out the sherbet, said Vandali. Yay, sherbet. Yay. The youngsters, Porvina, Bilder's daughter Varbi and Bazdia's daughter Jadal, showed excitement as the dessert arrived. Rapisic showed her excitement as well, though it was a little questionable as to whether she could be put in the same group as the others. In any case, time passed by peacefully in Taylersheim during Vandali's 6th summer. The levels of the status effect resistance, strength and followers, soul break, God Slayer, cooking, long-distance control, spirit form, parallel thought processing and materialization skills have increased. In Rod Corty's personal divine realm, Rod Corty had just finished maintenance on the Circle of Transmigration system. Though he called it maintenance, he was actually just having a look to see whether any problems had occurred. His system was so perfect that even if there were some small problems, the system would solve them on its own. Suddenly, it happened, just as he was wondering whether one of the people reincarnated on Origin had died yet, and whether he should check if someone had made contact with Vandali and Lambda just in case. An alarm started ringing in the Circle of Transmigration system. What? Impossible. It was working without any problems until a moment ago a soul has been extinguished. Astonished at this major incident that hadn't occurred in over 100,000 years, Rod Corty quickly adjusted the system. The extinguishing of even a single soul would have large effects on the system. If nothing was done, the extinguishing of a soul that is supposed to be reincarnated would cause a baby to be born without a soul. It would be different from a mere stillbirth. Without a soul, the baby's brain would still function as normal and its heart would still beat. It would develop, but in the process, a soul not passing through the circle of transmigration would enter it and fuse with the body, being reincarnated on its own and causing unexpected problems. The system would place another soul to replace the extinguished soul in the now empty space where it was supposed to be reincarnated. However, doing that would produce another soulless baby. This would occur repeatedly, causing a serious system error. If left alone, there would be frequent cases of babies with memories of their previous lives or people born with special abilities. There are two extinguished souls. Rod Corty investigated the souls while taking emergency measures. The soul of the human called Bormac Gordon wasn't a problem. Alda had sent a request to turn him into a heroic spirit after his death, so his soul had already been removed from the system. Alda would grieve over it, but the extinguishing of this soul would have no direct effect on the system. However, the extinguishing of the human called Riley had already caused damage to the system. Just what has happened? Has the Demon King been resurrected? Because their souls had been extinguished, Rod Corty couldn't look at the records of Riley and Gordon. With no other options, he looked at the records from those close to them. the records from the soldiers and the priest warriors led by Gordon before they became undead, as well as from the soldiers and adventurers in Balchburg. And then Rod Corti arrived at an astonishing truth. This is they became undead. And that Amamiya Hiroto, Vandali, was the cause of it. Rod Corti had been aware that undead could be made with death attribute magic, but what he saw was on a larger scale than he had hypothesized would be possible. That alone wasn't surprising, but what is the meaning of this? How does he possess such power while under the effects of my curses? He is not as powerful as when he turned into an undead in origin, but at this rate, he might come close to it. And this amount of mana exceeds the limit that mortals are allowed to possess. Leaving his experience points aside, Rod Corti had expected that Vandali wouldn't be able to gain any jobs, but now he realized that there were large loopholes in the curses he had made. They were holes caused by Rod Corti's lack of interest in Lambda's system of jobs and skills. On top of this, the curses were large negatives that produced even more blank space in Vandali's soul, an even greater empty frame. Vandali possessed even more mana than he had in origin. But what was an even greater problem than his jobs and mana was the fact that he had broken souls. To think that Vandali would possess powers with the same properties as the Demon Kings, this is not good. If Vandali kept breaking dozens, hundreds of souls, this alone could inflict massive damage upon the system. It wouldn't collapse, but it would likely produce too many defects to count. If Vandali fell into a state of despair and broke tens of thousands of souls within a short time period, reincarnation would no longer happen in Lambda. New infants wouldn't be born, and it would become a world of the dead. This requires swift action, but the actions Rod Corti could take were limited. He couldn't do something as dangerous as descending onto the world himself. Even if he asked Alda to descend himself, considering the current state of the world, he was very unsure as to whether Alda could be relied on. And letting him know about his current endeavor of reincarnating more people in Lambda from origin would be unwise. Even if he wanted to interfere with the system directly and create familiar spirits directly under his control from exceptional souls, such exceptional souls were not readily available. Was there no choice but to wait for one of those reincarnated in origin to die? There is no other choice fortunately, either there is a limit to how many souls he can break, or he has imposed some rules upon himself. If that were not the case, he would have broken more souls than 2 by now. I shall wait until someone comes from origin. Mom, Messara told me that I can do a lot of things if I make contracts with the evil god of bone fangs, the evil god of obscene skin, the evil god of degenerate flesh and the evil god of entrails, said Vandali. Vandali? I think it might be dangerous to make contracts with gods like that. You're right. I don't have any leads on gods that are in charge of blood, either. Well then, shall we go with the forbidden spell to create a homunculus? I'd need to search the forbidden archives of the Mages Guild, so it's still out of my reach, though. But it's said that those who do that receive Alda's divine punishment. So it comes down to the resurrection device after all. But I can't fix it yet. Around the same time, Vandali was making an attempt to make straw paper while discussing Darsa's resurrection with her. You have acquired the taboo name title. What's this? Vandali got something new, but he didn't know what it meant, so he left it alone. Name, Vandali race, Damper Dark Elf age, 6 years old title : Ghoul King, Eclipse King, taboo name new. Job, Venom Fist user level, 9 job history, death attribute Mage, Golem Transmuter, Undead Tamer, Soulbreaker attributes, Vitality, 168 mana, 328,119,451 strength, 117 agility, 114 stamina, 108 intelligence, 758 passive skills, superhuman strength, level 2 rapid healing, level 3 death attribute magic, level 5 status effect resistance, level 7, level up. Magic resistance, level 1 dark vision mental corruption, level 10 death attribute charm, level 6 chant revocation, level 4 strengthen followers, level 8, level up. Automatic mana recovery, level 3 strengthen subordinates, level 4 venom secretion, claws, fangs, tongue, level 1 active skills, blood sucking, level 6 surpass limits, level 5 golem transmutation, level 6 no attribute magic, level 4 mana control, level 4 spirit form, level 6, level up. Carpentry, level 4 engineering, level 3 cooking, level 4, level up. Alchemy, level 3 unarmed fighting technique, level 4 soul break, level 5, level up. Multicast, level 4 long distance control, level 5, level up. Surgery, level 1 parallel thought processing, level 4, level up. Materialization, level 3, level up. coordination, level 1 high-speed thought processing, level 2 commanding, level 1 farming, level 2, new. Clothing, level 1, new. Unique skills, God Slayer, level 2, level up. Curses, experience gained in previous life not carried over, cannot learn existing jobs, unable to gain experience independently. Title explanation, taboo name. When beings who possess a certain amount of influence acknowledge someone while taking care not to give that person a title, that person gains this title. In Vandali's case, he gained this title because Elder and his subordinates, Marzuxil, the emperor of the Amid Empire, and the 3 pure-breed vampires were careful to not give Vandali a title. It doesn't have any concrete effects, but it shows that one is feared at least on a national level, and possibly even feared by the gods. Because of this, someone possessing this title is often interpreted as that person being an extremely dangerous individual. When those who were being careful not to allow the bearer of this title to gain title stop doing so, and a suitable title is given, this title disappears. Chapter V3 Character Summary Page. V3 Character Summary Page. Our main character, who is now 6 years old. His personality hasn't changed. However, it is now clear that he prefers ketchup over mayonnaise. He became a king before becoming a nobleman, but he believes he needs to work hard now that he is the king, so he multiplies his heads and arms to complete his work quickly and lives life just as he did before. Taylorsheim has already become his third home. He is trying to set up environmentally friendly gum factories for the manufacturing of processed food, flavorings, straw paper, clothes and soap. He is doing this to increase the quality of life for Taylorsheim's inhabitants, but he is also doing it to produce future commercial products and tourism features. Recently, he has been thinking about taking water from the waterways and making pools, wondering if making swimsuits should come first. Chez Eyre, who has recently become his subordinate, presses him to create a currency and a national flag. His days are fulfilling. Going against the assumptions of Elder, the Marshal, the pure-breed vampires and the Emperor, he plans on finally journeying to the Orborm Kingdom next year. He is actually made from a combination of the souls of 4 champions, including Zakat, whose souls were broken 100,000 years ago. But as he doesn't have his former memories of the power of the champions, he isn't aware of this. It was 100,000 years ago, after all. Incidentally, if the current Vandal's fighting abilities were to be evaluated using the Adventurers Guild's system without any magic, he would be considered to be in the upper D class. If using only no attribute magic, class. If he used death attribute magic as well, B class, as death attribute magic is still an unknown form of magic. If he were to lead his undead and golems and spread disease, he would be equivalent to S class. However, he is more suited to fighting large groups of enemies of moderate strength rather than fighting a single, tremendously powerful enemy. He would also struggle against an enemy who comes at him with a single attack that he has poured everything into. If this enemy has trustworthy allies to back him up, Vandali wouldn't be able to avoid being at a disadvantage. A half-noble orc girl who will turn 3 years old this year. However, her size has already surpassed the 6-year-old Vandali by a large margin. Her status is more like a human's, as she has a job and no rank. However, she could be considered equivalent to a beast person, a race created by Vida. She gets along well with Rapisage and the other children, acting as something of an Anisan to them. She has been given an iron mace by Vandali, so she doesn't skip her daily training with club technique. She is the kind of little girl who beats her enemies to death. It also seems that she has graduated from throwing Vandali into the air. With her current fighting strength, she would easily defeat an E-class adventurer, and although she wouldn't lose to a D-class adventurer, it wouldn't be an easy victory. If she faced a party of D-class adventurers, she would be defeated. Name, Porvina race, half-noble orc age, 2 years old title, non-job, non-level, 75 job history, non-passive skills, night vision superhuman strength, level 1 enhanced vigor, active skills, club technique, level 1 throwing, level 1, a patchwork zombie that Vandali created by sewing together the remains of Mikhail's party members. The body of the female mage whose body had been most intact was used as her base, while her head is that of the female warrior. Her limbs below the elbows and knees are those of the ogre, and there are Pteranodon wings attached to her back. There is a cemetery bee stinger attached to a snake's tail, and her broken bones have been replaced by the reshaped bones of a trihorn, Triceratops. Her organs are those taken from monsters, and the skin and muscles of her torso were sewed together with materials from the female warrior and monsters. Vandali had the spirits floating around Taylorsheim possess her to turn her into a zombie. As a result, she has a youthful, beautiful face and an adult body with abundant curves. Her skin is pale, dark and dark green skin held together by subtle stitches, giving a corrupt-looking contrast, and her limbs are those of an ogre's, capable of easily crushing an adult man's head. There are wings on her back and a tail protruding from her waist, so it is difficult to tell what she is with one glance. As the spirits of the owners of the bodies weren't present because too much time had passed since their deaths, Rapisage's intelligence and mental age are equivalent to a young child's, and she can't use magic. She has quite a gluttonous personality, and has a particular liking for mayonnaise and ketchup. During the defense of Talersheim, she successfully increased her rank after killing numerous noble-born vampires who were far superior to her. Incidentally, she remembers absolutely nothing about the Mage nation. Name, Rapisage. Rank, 5 race, high patchwork zombie. Level, 0 passive skills, dark vision, rapid regeneration, level 5 deadly poison secretion, tail, level 5 physical resistance, level 3 magic resistance, level 3 superhuman strength, level 4, level up. Active skills, electrify, level 3, level up. High speed flight, level 2, level up. Unarmed fighting technique, level 2, new. Whip technique, level 1, new. Likely the world's only carriage undead that possesses an orichalcum spear. Due to orichalcum's special properties, it can easily break through barriers that aren't cast by first-rate mages with exceptional intelligence, spurring on Sam's rampages even further. Among those he ran over, there was someone who had a connection to the noble family that he served when he was alive, but he doesn't care. What bothers him more is his daughters, whose bodies are now excessively exposed. He worries about what will happen when their ranks increase even further. He has been appointed as civil official of Talersheim, but rather than being busy with work, he is busy making preparations for work. His rank also increased during the defense of Talersheim. He went from being a blood carriage to a murder carriage, becoming an ever-increasingly sinister carriage. As he wields an orichalcum spear, D-class adventurers are nothing but sources of experience points for him. Even a class adventurer would find it extremely difficult to face Sam on his own. Furthermore, due to the fact that he has acquired the space expansion skill, the inside of his carriage is 3 times larger than it appears from the outside, increasing his utility even further. Name, Sam. Rank, 5 race, murder carriage. Level, 1 passive skills, spirit body, level 4, level up. Superhuman strength, level 4, level up. Rough road travel, level 4, level up. Impact resistance, level 2. Precise driving, level 4, level up. Comfort maintenance, level 4, level up. Murder healing, level 1, new. Space expansion, level 2, new. Active skills, silent steps, level 1. High speed travel, level 2, level up. Charge, level 5, level up. Size alteration, level 2, new. Spear technique, level 1, new. The sisters who have regained sexy bodies fitting their high leg armor and bikini armor due to the leveling of their spirit form skill. At first glance, they look like young human women, but on closer inspection, their skin is so white it appears as if they are covered in thick candle wax, and no signs of blood vessels are visible, let alone blood. However, other features would draw the eyes of men before they could inspect them that closely. But the sisters appear to feel no embarrassment, as they consider their armor their main bodies. Their appearances have changed, but as spirit form is something that replaces the loss of their body's flesh and functions, their overall strength has increased remarkably. As Vandali has made them wear capes to hide their stimulating backsides, their physical and magical defenses have increased as well. They have acquired bodies that cannot grow fat, so the sisters are obsessed with the foods and flavorings that Vandali has reproduced in Lambda. However, they have realized that their original occupation of being maids has been neglected because they have only been training in martial skills recently, so they have begun practicing housework and sewing. If these two are faced together, even a class adventurer party would have a high chance of being defeated. As she is raising her daughter Jadal, she has stopped progressing and remains a Gulamazinus. However, due to Vandali's mana boot camp, her mana has increased and she has acquired several magic-related skills. Jadal has been weaned, so Bazdia has started learning how to cook recently. Her current specialty dishes are roasted meat and roasted skewered meat. Incidentally, she is the only opponent that Vandali is currently able to defeat in Shogai. Her ability is above that of an average class adventurer, but below that of a B-class adventurer. After the defense of Talersheim, she has been busy leveling with Borkus, Vigoro and Vandali by visiting the B-class dungeon, Barrigan's For Life Mountain, once a month. However, because her rank is high, it seems that her leveling is quite slow. However, she spends fulfilling days in Talersheim playing with her granddaughter, unconcerned with the fact that they look like sisters with a large age difference. Although she has been appointed as Taylorsheim's court mage, there isn't really any additional work for her. Most of her work is work that she has been doing since before she became court mage. Her rank has increased and she has become a ghoul elder mage, and her field of vision has increased due to the third eye that has appeared on her forehead, but apparently it doesn't provide much use for vision. If only fighting battles of magic, her ability is close to a B-class adventurer. His rank has increased and he has become a ghoul tyrant, a status that is legendary among ghouls. He has become so prominent that if he were to be seen in an area inhabited by humans, the Adventurers Guild would gather every adventurer around to take him down. However, he himself isn't aware of anything other than the fact that he has become strong. The person he is dating now will soon give birth to a child, so he is living life with enthusiasm. The gap between him and Borkus has grown wider as Borkus's rank has increased, so he is fired up about battle as well. Incidentally, he is the one who taught Vandali the unarmed fighting technique of the ghouls. However, he has already been surpassed in proficiency with the unarmed fighting technique itself. Bothered by this, he has started training in unarmed fighting technique in addition to his training with his axe. He has become one of Taylorsheim's military officers, but he simply thinks, I just have to hunt some monsters, right? His life isn't any different from before. In a one-on-one battle, he would defeat the average B-class adventurer. Name, Vigoro rank, 7 race, Ghoul Tyrant level, 39 job, Axe Master job level, 11 job history, Apprentice Warrior, Axeman age, 171 years old. Passive skills, Night Vision Superhuman Strength, Level 5 Pain Resistance, Level 4 Paralyzing Venom Secretion, Claws, Level 3 Strengthened attribute values when equipped with an axe, Medium, Active skills, Axe Technique, Level 8, Level Up. Hand-to-hand fighting technique, Level 3, Level Up. Commanding, Level 4 Coordination, Level 3, Level Up. Deforestation, Level 2 Dismantling, Level 1 Shield Technique, Level 2, New. In his battle against Riley, he remembered a technique and even turned it into a superior skill. Though his race title hasn't changed, his rank has increased. He has dealt with the ghosts of his past a little, so he feels greatly satisfied with his own achievements. He has mostly regained the ability he had while alive, and his stamina has surpassed what it was back then. A rank 10 monster would be enough to cause panic in a city of tens of thousands if spotted. But in Borkus's case, as he has the appearance of a titan zombie, he can pass for a rank 3 or 4 monster unless he demonstrates his strength himself or an insightful individual sees his true power. Because of this, he is thinking of pretending to be a zombie, but his zombie friends tell him that it's impossible and he is terrible at acting like a zombie. Like Vigoro, he was appointed as one of Taylorsheim's military officers, but he has now thrown all of his work onto Ches Heir, who is supposed to be in a higher position than him. But as he takes the undead of the former expedition army with him when he hunts, it can be said that he works by training the new members. His favorite foods are mayonnaise and soups containing dashi. He has become the leader of the Church of Vida in Taylorsheim. He protested to this, telling Vandali that he is not worthy. But Vandali's retort was to say that he wasn't fit to be king, either, so that ended the argument. However, since New Arze has basically been managing the church on his own, nothing has really changed even after he assumed this position. He is preaching Vida's teachings to the new undead of the expedition army, but there are living armors with no physical bodies among them, so he is having a little difficulty in communicating with them. His race title is Lich, but because he received an Orichalcum mace from Vandali and was proficient in hand-to-hand combat to begin with, his magic has completely become something of a trump card at this point. Because of this, though he has reached level 100, his rank has not increased for him to become a high Lich. Perhaps due to this imbalance, his strength in battle seems strangely close to that of a class adventurer, but not quite. His rank has increased for him to become a Viscount, and his appearance now sets him apart from normal skeletons. His presence is so impressive that Vandali would be overshadowed if he stood next to Bone Man. He has recently acquired the mount skill, fitting for a knight, but riding Nochen seems like it would cause Bone Man to become incorporated into Nochen, so he is unable to make use of it. That is why he is requesting Vandali to create a dragon zombie or a bone dragon, but as it is more effective to turn these into materials for equipment to be distributed to everyone rather than creating a single creature that would take time to grow strong, this has been postponed. But as victory was achieved in the defense of Taylorsheim, Vandali has decided to turn the next hunted dragon into a bone dragon, though he is now facing the harsh reality of the world as dragons have stopped appearing. Because of this, he is currently using a bone Tyrannosaurus as a mount. When mounted, Bone Man's strength in battle is equivalent to multiple class adventurers. Nochen became a rank 8 union of bones before the defense of Taylorsheim. Its appearance is that of a combination of countless bones, a beast the size of a mansion. Notchen is a powerful monster. Attacks that would effectively break the skulls and backbones of normal skeletons are ineffective on it, as it replaces its broken bones with the bone form manipulation skill. It is noteworthy that the bones of earth dragons and rock dragons have been absorbed by Notchen's body, while normal unions of bones wouldn't have these. Its defense is as solid as steel. It is a monster that the Adventurers Guild would designate as a disaster. If it were discovered, the guild would send out compulsory requests and form an extermination squad. The Adventurers Guild itself isn't aware of this, and nobody else knows, either. Notchen's very existence is rare, so it is not as well known as Goblin Kings. It frequently flies in the skies above Talersheim, but apparently Vandali is riding inside around 1 in 10 times. Name, Notchen rank, 8 race, Union of Bones level, 27. Passive skills, Dark Vision Superhuman Strength, level 8 Spirit Form, level 5 Bone Form Manipulation, level 5 Physical Resistance, level 4 Absorption Healing, Bone, level 4 Active Skills, Silent Steps, level 2 Breath, Poison, level 5 High Speed Flight, level 5 Long Distance Control, level 4 Projectile Fire, level 4. She is a beautiful noble-born vampire who has become a vampire viscount, undergone a job change to vassal warrior, and even conquered sunlight. As a result of doing her best to get stronger for Vandali's sake, she has indeed become strong, but she is a little troubled by the fact that her master is busy with housework. Vandali gave her the power to overcome the sun and executed a plan that allowed her to defeat Isla, a clearly superior foe. Her belief that Vandali is a more fearsome being than the pure-breed vampires has grown even deeper. Isla and the vampires, who became vampire zombies, have become Eleonora's subordinates. Her current objective is to have all of them acquire the sunlight resistance skill. She is an ambitious person who wants Vandali to control the entire continent. She feels younger after having undergone youth transformation, so she is seriously considering using her own body to curry favor with Vandali, something she didn't consider before. But she believes that being forceful wouldn't be wise, so she diligently made arms for the defense of Talersheim as part of a plan to act as the woman who supports him from the shadows. She is also the only one in the group of women around Vandali who doesn't feel a sense of risk at her lack of ability to do housework. I have my craftsmanship, she tells herself as she continues to create arms. In addition, with Saria and Rita regaining their bodies, there has been a slight change in the bust rankings since the end of the second volume, but she and Basdias still fight for the top spot. If Dasa is included, there is a third contestant for this spot. Incidentally, 4th place is currently held by Saria and Rita in a tie, while Eleonora is 6th. 7th place and below belongs to Kaka and Bilder. Last of all is Zadirus. Name, Terra rank, 3 race, Ghoul level, 1 job, Arms Smith job level, 97 job history, Apprentice Smith, Smith slave, forced job change at level 47, Apprentice prostitute, prostitute age, 269 years old, physical age and age appearance 18 years old. Passive skills, night vision pain resistance, level 1 superhuman strength, level 1 paralyzing venom secretion, claws, level 1 allure, level 4, level up. Active skills, estimation, level 6 armor smithing, level 7, level up. Weapon smithing, level 7, level up. Bedroom skill, level 5 dancing, level 2 lovemaking, level 2, the first ninja in Lambda. The experience points he gained in the defense of Talersheim allowed him to become a Black Goblin Ninja Adept. He can probably be considered to be equivalent to a Chunin. His ability in battle puts professional assassins to shame. Possibly because Vandali deliberately neglected to tell him that combat isn't the essence of being a ninja and that ninjas are supposed to conceal themselves, he is becoming unusually proficient at assassinating enemies head-on. He has a mischievous appearance, with a pointed nose and slanted eyes, but he has an earnest personality. Because of this, he and the other Black Goblins were engrossed with their training and have realized only recently that most of the members of the other new races, such as Gorba and Mamadiga, are now in relationships. King, we want relationships with people as well. Do you want to come with me to the Orborn Kingdom with me next year? A conversation like this has apparently taken place. Of course, there is no guarantee that Braga and the others will find lovers even if they do go to the Orborn Kingdom. It seems that Vandali has the insensitive, savage idea of buying slaves before returning to Talersheim if they really couldn't find anything in the Orborn Kingdom. Incidentally, all of the Black Goblins Orborn Kingdom. Incidentally, all of the Black Goblins became Black Goblin Ninjas following the defense of Talersheim. If all of them moved together, they would have the power to kill all of the important people in a small to medium-sized town of several thousand in a single night. Name, Braga rank, 6 race, Black Goblin Ninja Adept level, 1 passive skills, Dark Vision status effect resistance, level 3, level up. Enhanced agility, level 4, level up. Intuition, level 3, level up. Detect presence, level 5, level up. Strengthened attribute values when equipped with ninja equipment, medium, new. Active skills, short sword technique, level 5, level up. Throwing, level 3, level up. Silent steps, level 6, level up. Trap, level 2, level up. Dismantling, level 3, level up. Unlocking, level 2, level up. Unique skills, Human Slayer, level 1, new. He was originally the god of the light attribute, but because he took Veda's divinity, something that is necessary for gods to manage and rule over the world, he now also rules over the life attribute and is known as the god of law and fate. His personality is conservative, and his principles are old-fashioned. He hates change, and believes that people should live each day as they did the day before, under the order that he has created. He believes that this is happiness. That was why he chose Bellwood as his champion, as Alda thought that he shared the same beliefs. Considering the losses leading up to the Demon King's defeat, the loss of over 99% of the population and the incapacitation of all of the gods except for him and Veda, Alda believes that the destruction of the souls of Zagat and the other 3 creation-minded heroes was something that should have been avoided at all costs. But at the same time, considering Veda's reckless behavior, at least, reckless from Alda's point of view, he wonders if the fall of Zagat and his companions was a good thing, or perhaps Veda wouldn't have acted so rashly if it hadn't happened. As a result of all of this thinking, he has decided that there is no use in worrying about events of the past, so he has sealed this away in the depths of his memories. His objective is to destroy Veda's races just like the evil gods, but he doesn't not truly believe that Veda's races are evil. He is simply destroying them because it is necessary to protect the order in the circle of transmigration. This is why he feels no remorse over it. He believes that this is something that must be completed for the sake of those who have been sacrificed, including members of Veda's races who have been exterminated, so he has no intention of changing his mind. His information regarding Vandali was interrupted by Gordon and the others becoming undead, and Rod Corti has not shared any information with him either, so he is unaware that Vandali is able to break souls. However, he does know that Vandali commands undead and golems, turns even saints into zombie servants and creates diseases, so he is already beginning to prepare measures to deal with these. But as there are currently none who can accurately understand his divine messages accurately, he is starting with things like, raise people who can withstand disease. People who can understand divine messages accurately are rare. New Arzu is a genius in this regard. He has subordinate gods such as Kuratos, the god of records, and Naltuk, the god of judgment. The champion chosen by Alda. In his original world, Earth, he was a university student who participated in environmental protection activities. He had a handsome face and a charisma that attracted people, was successful in his studies and possessed athletic ability. He was a person blessed with many things, but after he began focusing on radical nature conservation activities, people drifted away from him. Things changed for him completely when he was summoned to Lambda, and as Lambda was an ideal world for him in which an industrial revolution hadn't yet taken place, he made efforts in various areas. Things were going well at first, but as his conflicts with Zagat and his companions grew fiercer, the rift between them grew, causing them to part ways in the end. The Demon King took advantage of this, and Zagat and his companions were lost. The Demon King was eventually defeated despite this, but it was a narrow victory with over 99% of the population at the time being lost. After that, he fought against Veda alongside Alda with righteous indignation because she turned the soulless Zagat into an undead and gave birth to vampires and ghouls, races that have a bad image on Earth. In his eyes, she was toying with the dead and with life itself. There is some truth to his claims, but he has the kind of personality to not listen to others. He would say words like, let's discuss things, and we'll understand each other if we talk about it, but if one actually argued with him, he would shout his points and interrupt the points of others, especially those disagreeing with him, so that proper discussion was never reached. Because he simply says things that are comforting to hear. He seems like a good-natured person to those who think like him. His ideal is a self-sufficient lifestyle with no electricity or steam engines. He believes that this is the true form of man. As magic does not pollute the environment, at least, Bellwood did not think that it does, he does not restrict its use. Incidentally, most of the things written in the picture book Vandali read in the past are true, and all of the women that Bellwood loved survived the battle against the Demon King. After death, he attained divinity and became one of Alda's subordinate gods, but he and the evil god of sinful chains struck each other down. The goddess who originally ruled over the life attribute. 100,000 years ago, she created her own circle of transmigration system for this world and new races to aid in the world's recovery, and build a city using Zakat's knowledge. However, Alda, Bellwood and the others assaulted her, leaving her with a deep wound and robbing her of her divinity. That wound still has not healed to this day. She regains her consciousness from time to time, but she spends most of her time in a helpless state of slumber. Her personality is the complete opposite of Alda's, not caring about formalities and rules. Her teachings are simple. She does not impose complicated ceremonies and harsh training on her believers. She has a broad-minded personality and doesn't care about the small details. As a goddess, she rules over love and life. But as she also governs the evolution of life and the struggle for existence, she also encourages competition in society. Victors should be praised, while the defeated should be loved so that they can stand up once more. That is what she teaches. As one might imagine from the fact that she gave birth to numerous new races within a short period of time, she is quite a wild goddess. Her teachings place no importance on virginity, so the female saints who served her acted as sacred prostitutes. His real name is Seikado Kejik. He was a young manager of a small factory. Though he dreamed of being a forensic scientist during his days as a student, various circumstances forced him to attend a technical college and inherit his parents' factory after he graduated. He is well informed on various miscellaneous subjects due to his hobbies, but he was about to hang himself after his factory business failed. This was when Vida selected him as her champion. His looks were average and he wasn't athletic. The ability he gained was creation-oriented. He was not a very champion-like champion. This showed in the way he thought in the battle against the Demon King. Bellwood and his companions said that it was a holy war to protect the world, but Zakat was the only one who thought of it as a war between invaders and the world's native people from the very beginning. As a result, he was able to successfully make numerous evil gods switch sides. However, this achievement caused a distance to form between him and the battle-minded champions, and also attracted the Demon King's attention. He had the type of personality that treasured harmony within a team. Before he knew it, he had become the peacemaker among the creation-minded champions and clashed often with Bellwood, the leader of the battle-minded champions. Though Bellwood shouted his own opinions without listening to those of others and tried to overcome holes in his plans with sheer strength, Zakat knew that the champions must not be divided. He continued to pacify his companions and support Bellwood. However, unable to endure it in the end, he began following his own path. He had some radical thoughts as well, creating a plan to develop and make use of the most powerful, most environmentally harmful weapon among the chemical weapons of Earth. He and his fellow creation-minded champions had their souls broken by the Demon King. The fragments of their souls were recovered by Rod Corti, turned into a single soul and, through a 100,000-year reincarnation, became Vandali, the Demon King who appeared from another world and began an invasion on Lambda. His power is said to have been so great that he could have exchanged blows with every single god on his own. In addition, he was able to break and destroy souls, something that even the gods were not capable of. With this ability and fear, he ruled a multitude of evil gods. He possessed the ability to simultaneously shield himself with barriers against both physical and magical attacks, as well as plenty of other troublesome abilities. He somehow imitated Rod Corti's circle of transmigration system, and using this, he created monsters that had never existed in Lambda before. Most of the monsters that exist in present times originate from the Demon King. He decided that it would be not Bellwood, who possessed exceptional ability in battle, but Zakat's knowledge that would one day drive him into a corner. He disguised himself as one of his own soldiers and obliterated Zakat, a former member of the Five Colored Blades and a former companion of Heinz. However, due to a difference in opinions, he abandoned Heinz and left the party. When he was in the Five Colored Blades, he was obsessed with achievements and deeds, and was even vain at times. But at the same time, he was also a helpful and good-natured person. Riley tried to accept the differences between him and Heinz, but became more unrestrained after he and Heinz parted ways. He was praised for a short while, just like the protagonists of heroic folk songs that he had dreamed of, because of the deal that he made with the vampires. However, he is currently known in the Mage Shield Nation as the fallen hero, and it is as if he was never treated as a hero at all. Just as Palpapek thought, Riley did have talent, but this talent was something that he was only able to display for the first time because of his companions who possessed the same talent. Even up until the moment his soul was extinguished, he never realized this. Incidentally, the title of the second coming of the tragic hero was treated as 20s Jeanne d'Arc or 20s Sakamoto Ryuma, so it didn't bestow any negative adjustments on Riley's status. Riley's 3 criminal slaves. Vandali resurrected them as undead after Borkus cut them down, but as he recognized that they were useful, he didn't include them in the disposable army and kept them in Talersheim. Jenny is useful as he knows about the Mig Shield Nation's underground society, the Adventurers Guild, and can even be used as a scout, which Talersheim lacks even with the ninja unit. Messara possesses enough magical skill and know-how that she rose to the position of master in the Mages Guild, and Vandali has acknowledged her knowledge in forbidden spells. Flark has knowledge about the Mercenaries Guild, and was born in a farming family. They are being made to work in Talersheim. Vandali has heard about their pasts from the spirits that were haunting them, so he doesn't have a particularly good impression of them, but even so, he has decided that they are better than Riley. Flark in particular has become a cheerful, talkative zombie who works hard in the fields where tomatoes are turning into monster plants one after another. He is a high priest of Alder. He failed with the 3rd opportunity to kill Vandali that he had prayed for, and as a result, he was killed and turned into an undead. In the end, he mixed up Vandali with Alder. Due to the acts of destruction he committed under Vandali's orders, his reputation plummeted to the earth and his influence in the Church of Alder has fallen as well. Not only the Church but the Empire and the Mig Shield Nation are also trying to extinguish the flames and restore his reputation, but the image of Gordon opening a large hole in the city's wall and emerging through it is so devastating that his reputation won't recover as much as they would like. The reputation restoration was going well for a while, but the people began blaming the demons on the other side of the Boundary Mountain Range and advocating a war of revenge, so it was hastily stopped. Other than the Church, everyone is now considering whether it might be better to treat Gordon as an evil person. Most of the disciples that he was teaching participated in the expedition, with the exception of those who couldn't due to age or injury. The fact that all of them were annihilated is a headache-inducing problem for both the Church and Alder. Incidentally, there are numerous priest warriors and saints in the Church of Alder who surpass Gordon in terms of strength in battle. However, Alder had taken notice of him and considered him a candidate to become the next heroic spirit because he was a hero acknowledged by many. No matter how much power one possesses, if he remains unknown, he is no more than an unknown strong person and can never become a heroic spirit or a god, beings who are widely known. The person who suffered the most damage in the 3rd volume. However, the Devil's Nest that he turned into cultivated land had originally been the land that the ghouls were living in, so Vandali simply thinks that Balches reaped what he sowed. Of course, ghouls are treated as monsters in human society, so only Vandali and his allies would think that way. The fact that his cultivation project has stopped caused him economic problems, but a project to construct a fort overlooking the Boundary Mountain Range has begun under the leadership of the Amid Empire, so he is somewhat able to breathe a sigh of relief with that. His children and grandchildren will likely be severely troubled by the fort's existence, but Balches will be praised as a benevolent lord for the fact that Balchburg was successfully defended and the fact that it recovered economically. A general of the Amid Empire. He is a member of the army, but he is the political kind, so he possesses almost no individual fighting strength. He has gained many benefits through his dealings with the pure-breed vampire Turnisha. He tried to maximize his glory through this expedition, but met a cruel end. In the Amid Empire, the Morvid family of earls has been crushed and Ranil's eldest son and heir has been murdered and covered up as tragic circumstances as well. The more Viscount Balches's reputation increases, the more Morvid's name becomes synonymous with corrupt noblemen in the Mig Shield Nation. Chazair tried working his spirit hard in Talersheim, but he was deemed to be useless after all and turned into one of the glums making up the city's walls. The second son of Earl Ligston, the former marshal of the Mig Shield Nation. An unfortunate person who got caught up in the pure-breed vampires conspiracy. He is mediocre as a commander, but he is the coordinating type of military officer and performs well in doing civil official type work, so he is a versatile individual. Vandali has acknowledged this and appointed him as General Borkus. Being someone who cannot do desk work is another reason for this. However, though he is a general, he works with not only military business but bureaucratic affairs as well. Though he says that he would have died of overwork if he wasn't already dead, he works like a workaholic and presses Vandali to establish things like a national flag, currency and laws. Incidentally, the Black Bull Knights Order is working in Talersheim, acting as opponents in mock battles for the ghouls to learn the art of war and human-style group fighting tactics. As a result of Vandali's counterattack, he has been reappointed as marshal. However, rather than this being an achievement, he is now drowning in a whirlpool of work that is enough to make his hairline recede. Now that only a third of the Mig Shield Nation's elite forces remain, he must return these to their original force. But before that, he must put the forts along the border on alert status so that the Orborn Kingdom doesn't take advantage. He is so busy with work that he doesn't even have time to plan things. He made a plan to cast Triley away, but it seems that he is now regretting not simply having him murdered. He believes that this is all Vandali's conspiracy, but as Vandali possesses no information on the political relationships in the Mage Shield Nation and the Empire, everything is simply a coincidence. The Amid Empire's current half-elf emperor. He is handsome and clear-minded, placing more importance on benefits than emotion, but he doesn't take the emotions of others lightly, either. He does follow elders' teachings, but his religious piety is non-existent. It is merely a show. Even the persecution of Veda's races is something that he maintains out of convenience in order to avoid causing dissatisfaction among the people. He is interested in Vandali, who is able to command the undead. He wishes to acquire Vandali as someone to work for him from the shadows. However, this is an offer to which Vandali's only reply would be, definitely not. Not only would he be unable to acquire the social fame that he wants the most, but those resurrecting from origin would see him as an accomplice in a national conspiracy, band together and eliminate him. Mazakzo thinks of Vandali as someone who can create undead in great numbers and tame them, so while he considers Vandali a threat, he also realizes how much use Vandali could be. However, he believes that Vandali is less of a priority than Schneider. The reason he is leaving Schneider be is because Schneider's power and fame is too much for him to handle. However, he has several special units under direct Imperial command, so he is confident that even a coup d'état attempt by Schneider could be suppressed. However, in such an event, great losses would be suffered, including the loss of the special units. It would be problematic if the Orborm Kingdom were to take advantage of that, or vassal nations began wars for independence, so this is something that he wants to avoid if possible. The only S-class adventurer in the western region of the Barngaya continent. Though he is known for his countless achievements such as slaying an evil god and slaying elder dragons, he is also known for his terrible philandering. However, he only killed the evil god in a lady killer sense. He is a believer of Veda who has helped tribes of Lamia and Scylla that he was supposed to have exterminated go further into hiding and is drinking buddies with several elder dragons. He is a human and he appears to be in his 20s, but he is actually in his 50s. He hunted down numerous evil elder dragons, bathed in their blood and ate their liver sashimi, and before he knew it, he had become immortal. He is the owner of an almost 2-meter-tall body with sturdy, lean muscles and possesses an unrefined beauty. However, he calls his silver blonde hair completely white and thinks of himself as an old man who simply looks young. Almost half of his achievements have been forged. He protects Veda's new races, helps them escape to other continents. Meanwhile, in the shadows, he buries vampires with connections to evil gods, as well as slave traders and adventurers who specialize in hunting members of Veda's races. His eventual goal is to overturn the Amid Empire's policy of persecuting Veda's races, but the road ahead of him is long. He spends his days whispering, "I wonder if I'll live long enough to see that day," only to have his companions tell him, "No, you definitely will." He actually received a divine message from Veda telling him to save Vandali, but because he mistakenly interpreted this divine message, he failed to do so. Obeying the other part of the divine message that he was to follow in the event of such failure, which was given to him to ensure that he and Vandali do not become hostile to each other, he has been avoiding crossing the boundary mountain range. One of his companions is a dark elf warrior chief. If Vandali had actually headed for Darce's hometown, he might have actually joined forces with Schneider by now. When he was young, he was a lively person who loved women, but now he has more or less calmed down and become a health maniac for no apparent reason. Magic explanation, up until Volume 3. Side Volume. This is an explanation of the no attribute magic and death attribute magic used by the protagonist.
Okay, I think I should skip this chapter because I think it's a bit redundant if we just go with the skills. Last chapter was pretty much interesting because we went through all the characters, explains their origins and attitude, so it's pretty helpful. But for this, the skills, I think we should probably skip this. So yeah, we're moving to the next chapter after this.
Chapter Appendix 2, Monster Explanation, Ranks and More. This is a simple explanation.
Okay, maybe the next chapter also. Let's just see. Because, yeah, monsters. Yeah, maybe next time. It's kind of weird that the author enjoys making summaries of every characters and even monsters and spells. So, yeah. There's another one. Guild explanation. These things are very long. 30 minutes all. Ish.
Chapters.
Okay, here's the next chapter. Chapter 67. So yeah. Let's continue with this.
67, The First Mission. Good afternoon, King. Volume 4, the Hartnett Volume. Documents. It doesn't need to be said that they wouldn't exist without materials for writing. Tree bark, branches and animal skins can be used, but Vandali was looking at documents made of paper created by the glum factory that he had set up. Looking at this, Vandali wondered why he had made straw paper, regretting his decision. Well, I suppose desk work is necessary as well. Things would surely be easier in the future if he got used to this now. He would be able to gain popularity and respect as a man capable of finishing his work quickly, though it seemed that strong men capable of hunting monsters were the popular ones in Lambda. He decided to deal with the documents for now. He quickly checked over them, and as long as he saw no problems, he stamped it with a seal that he had made earlier. Phew, it's done, said the many heads of Vandali, who had split them and his arms into multiples. Your Majesty, could I ask you to teach me this method of doing desk work? Despite having done desk work for much longer, Chazé requested instruction from Vandali. I don't mind teaching you, but in your case, it would be faster if I multiplied your arms and heads physically, said Vandali. Should I start the surgery today? No, please leave it for another time, said Chazé. It seemed that even zombies were reluctant to undergo body, corpse, remodeling. So, are the new documents? Asked Vandali. No, I was hoping that you would consider the issue of currency. I see. Various systems had been put into place in Taylorsheim thanks to Chazé. Vandali hadn't ordered him to create these, nor had anyone else asked Chazé to do it, but he had taken the initiative and advised Vandali to create a government. Because of this, the national flag had become a black and white circle using a solar eclipse as its motif, and all kinds of documents had been created. Incidentally, laws had been created using the laws Taylorsheim had used in the past as well as the laws of the Hartnett Duchy as references. They weren't of much use now, however. Naturally, Chazé pressing Vandali to introduce currency was the next step. Your Majesty. It is certainly true that there are currently no problems with bartering for goods. However, the introduction of currency is absolutely necessary for the development of our nation. Even if the commercial trade that you desire with the Orborn Kingdom becomes a reality one day, wouldn't it be fine to handle trading with the Orborn Kingdom by introducing the Orborn Kingdom's currency? I don't really intend on making Taylorsheim an independent nation or anything, said Vandali. How could this be? You would sell the nation, Your Majesty? I was thinking that Taylorsheim should aim to be a self-governing dominion within the Orborn Kingdom with no diplomatic rights. Your Majesty, it is madness to willingly stoop to becoming a vassal nation to the Orborn Kingdom. Please reconsider your decision. Vandali sighed. Despite Chazé's words, Vandali had been aiming to become an honorary nobleman in the Orborn Kingdom from the very beginning. After that, things would depend on what happens to Taylorsheim, whether the undead and ghouls gained human rights or not, and whether Vandali managed to dispose of the pure-breed vampires. But if things went well, he intended to have Taylorsheim to become a self-governing dominion of the Orborn Kingdom. The chances of this becoming a reality were probably quite small, but Vandali thought that this would provide the most benefits. Of course, if this was impossible, the Orborn Kingdom probably had exceptional diplomats he could make deals with while managing the nation, but would he need dozens of experienced undead from political families? Well, that's for the future, so let's leave it aside for now. You mentioned currency, didn't you? I intend to depart for the Hartnett Duchy before the day is over, so won't you consider it after that? Said Vandali. Vandali was already 7 years old, and the season was summer. According to his plans, he should have already been heading for the Hartnett Duchy by now. His objective was to register at the guild. For underage individuals to work as adventurers, they need to enroll and graduate at the adventurers' school. However, registration is possible even without enrolling at the school. G-class adventurers who have just registered at the Adventurers Guild can only accept manual work in towns, so there is no need for them to learn at the school. Only those intending to rise to F-class and beyond enroll at the school at least. This was true for the Orborn Kingdom's Adventurers Guild of 200 years ago. In the future, Vandali also intended to rise to F-class and beyond, gain achievements to his name and become an honorary nobleman. But right now, he intended to register, acquire a guild card and return to Taylorsheim without enrolling at the Adventurers School. The reason for this was I want to register before my status becomes even more outrageous than it is now. This sentence summarized that reason. A registration card, commonly known as a guild card, would be issued when Vandali registered at the guild. But Vandali's status would be displayed in full to the guild staff member issuing him the guild card. In other words, Vandali's titles of Ghoul King, Eclipse King and Taboo Name, his previously undiscovered jobs such as Undead Tamer and Soul Breaker, the unknown skill that was Death Attribute Magic, his astoundingly named unique skill, God Slayer, and even the curses placed upon him by Rod Corti, would all be displayed. It was already looking quite bad, but there was no saying that more terrible things wouldn't appear on his status. Thus, Vandali's plan was to register now before it got any worse and then make a dash back to Taylorsheim before an uproar occurred. Of course, Vandali had another objective of investigating what became of the first Princess Livia, Balkas's daughter, and the others who had escaped to the Hartner Duchy from Taylorsheim 200 years ago. Like ghouls, Titans live for 300 years, so he would probably be able to find out by asking Titans in a town. It would be nice if they were healthy, but if they were too healthy and were currently planning the revival of Taylorsheim, it would be problematic. Perhaps not, if they were understanding towards undead. I'll bring back currency from the Orborn Kingdom, so let's examine that and think about it then, said Vandali. The Amid Empire used a unified currency issued by the Empire, but in the Orborn Kingdom, each duchy and royal capital city issued its own currency. In other words, there were 14 kinds of currency. Orms, a unit of currency valid all over the Orborn Kingdom, circulated in combination with the currency issued in each duchy. Because of this, despite all being part of the same nation, towns on the boundaries between duchies had currency exchange facilities. Peddlers working in multiple duchies had to constantly be mindful of the currency exchange rates. In addition to the above, there had apparently been cases of older currencies being replaced by newer currencies in the Orborn Kingdom's history. It wasn't simply a matter of the face of the king engraved on the coins being changed, the metallic ratios of the coins would change, so they would have different values as well. Therefore, it was possible that new coins might have been created sometime in the past 200 years. The Orborn Kingdom lost one duchy in the War of 6 years ago, but that doesn't change the fact that things are complicated, so we have to be careful if we're going to create our own currency. It would be problematic if the value of Taylorsheim's currency plummeted in the distant future due to differences in the coin's metallic ratios. Vandali had learned in class that this had happened in Japan in the past. Shazare appeared surprised for some reason. You still intend to go to the Hartner Duchy? What do you mean, still? Vandali asked. Of course I do. But you have already postponed your departure for 7 days. There are various reasons for that. Various reasons. Though Vandali said this, he couldn't deny that he had continued to postpone his departure for 7 days. The ones going to the Hartner Duchy were Vandali, the ninja unit of Zran and Braga, and Eleonora, who was exceptional as an infiltrating spy. That was the plan. Vandali would go to the city of the Hartner Duchy, take a look around and check whether there was any reaction from danger sense, death. After that, he would call the ninja unit and Eleonora. This was what he had discussed with everyone months ago, but the first day. No way, I'm going with you. Poor Venus squealed. Going. Rapisage groaned. No way, I want to go with I cannot do Thais. Zediris wailed. Poor Vina, I'm just going there and coming straight back, so it might not even take 10 days, said Vandali. Rappi, you'd cause an uproar if you went near areas where people live, so you can't come. And Zediris, you don't have to do that if you're going to be embarrassed about it. Poor Vina, Rapisage and for some reason Zediris, held him back. Poor Vina and Rapisage were quickly pacified, but Zediris was depressed, asking herself, how unbecoming of my age. What am I doing? By the time Vandali cheered her up, the sun had already set. Giving up on departing that day, Vandali spent the evening playing with Varby, Jiddle and the other children. The second day, Vandali decided that he would leave today. Suddenly, the sky became dark, and before he knew it, he was kidnapped and taken into the sky. It seemed that Nochen, the Union of Bones, had kidnapped him from behind. I'm intending to leave today, said Vandali. OHN. No, I can't really bring you with me. Nobody in Taylorsheim was aware yet that a Union of Bones was a monster that would be designated as a disaster, but even so, it wasn't difficult to imagine that there would be a huge uproar if a mass of bones went near a town. Once I register at the guild, I'll get a familiar's certificate for you. As Vandali tried to persuade Nochen into letting him down while being taken on a scenic flight, the sun set. The third day, Vandali decided that he would definitely leave today. Wondering why there was a lot of buzzing and why the sky had become so dark, he was kidnapped into the sky. I thought I was having déjà vu, but it's cemetery bees this time. Several dozen cemetery bees had grabbed Vandali. They flew up to their nest that had been built in a way that made it look like a part of the royal castle. And then they offered him honey and insects. Were they trying to dissuade him from leaving by offering this food? I'll be coming back, Vandali reassured them. The cemetery bees made clicking noises. Yes, really? So please stop making me trying to eat caterpillar dangos. At least boil or fry them. Fried caterpillar dangos with honey on top are delicious, being crispy on the outside and syrupy on the inside. If the honey was replaced with salty sweet tear sauce, they might make good side dishes or snacks to eat while drinking alcohol. The fourth day. Will you really be alright? Perhaps it would be better if you waited. You leveled up a little more after all. You did say that your level wasn't really increasing these days, weren't you? Today, Dasa, who happened to be awake in the morning, was stopping Vandali. It's fine, Mom, said Vandali, reassuring her. I've just hit a wall a bit early on. It's not like I've become weaker. As Dasa said, Vandali had entered a phase of development where his level suddenly became very difficult to increase, commonly referred to as a wall. His progress was indeed slow, but he hadn't suddenly become weaker or become unable to do things today that he had been able to do yesterday. And it wasn't as if his development would be stalled here forever. It was well known that walls could be overcome. In fact, Kuka had encountered the same problem. She had now overcome that well and was currently leveling up as fast as she once did in the past. The thickness of the wall and the timing of encountering it vary. There are those who give up and say that this is their limit, but there are also many who surpass it to grow even further. The percentage of adventurers who give up increases with the second wall, however. Walls are something that adventurers encounter once when they become D-class. Those quickly able to overcome this wall are determined to have talent, and they attempt to become class, while those like Kuka who cannot immediately overcome it experience a long slump. Incidentally, the former A-class adventurer Borkus had encountered 3 walls, and was still attempting to overcome the 4th when he was defeated by Mikhail. Looking at it another way, this means that I'm as strong as a D-class adventurer right now, said Vandali. I think making a little trip to the city and coming back will be a piece of cake. Vandali's words were something that any D-class adventurer in this world would deny. Dasa would agree with them. No. Dasa cried. I don't want to be separated from you. Take me with you, just as you've done up until now. I want to bring you as well, but it's a little dangerous, said Vandali. It was possible that Vandali's belongings would be thoroughly searched by the gatekeepers as he entered the city. If by some chance they found Dasa's bone fragment and somehow realized that her spirit was possessing it, it would be troublesome. If the gatekeepers called for people or tried to purify Dasa's spirit, Vandali would be forced to run, even if he had to kill the gatekeepers to do so. It would be problematic if I had to fire death bullets in random directions, don't you think? Indeed, it would be problematic. If Vandali did something like that in front of the city's gates, it wouldn't be only the gatekeepers' lives at risk. The walls around the gates would turn into a mountain of rubble. In fact, it wasn't clear if rubble would even be left. Fine, Dasa agreed reluctantly. But make sure you come back safe, she added. Yes, of course, Mom, said Vandali. And so the sun set today as well. The 5th day. Quu. Vandali let out a flat-toned scream-like noise as he was kidnapped by the Immortalents. Judging from his limp body, it seemed that he had given up on resisting. The 6th day. Kid, about the letter I gave you to give to my daughter if you see her, said Borkus. If she's having a hard time, give her this as well. Holy Sun, if you meet Lavia's Summer, please give this to her. New Ars are requested. This as well, Your Majesty. My luggage is already 3 times my size, said Vandali. Sorting out his luggage took time, so his departure was delayed yet another day. And now today was the 7th day. I've convinced everyone, and the factories will keep producing miso, soy sauce, katsuobushi, smoked food, mayonnaise and ketchup for 100 years, even if I'm not here. I'm fully prepared. All I have to do now is move my feet, Vandali said eagerly. Vandali Summer, there is something of a problem, Eleonora said reluctantly as she appeared. A problem? Vandali repeated. Braga and the others ended up going to a dungeon yesterday. They might not return for a few days, Eleonora told him. It seemed that the ninja unit had been unable to endure trip being postponed day after day and had left to do some training in a dungeon. It can't be helped, said Vandali. Let's head out first. If I leave undead to communicate with, I'm sure they can meet up with us later. Communication undead used like familiars could be used like cell phones. The distance for making calls was small, and his voice wouldn't be heard exactly as it was because it would be the undead's tongue speaking for him. But these were evolutionary undead in the world of Lambda. They had the appearance of shrunken goblin heads. They had the most terrible design. Using freshly severed human heads would provide better function, but Vandali would be arrested if he was caught with them, so he had abandoned this idea. "Now then, shall we go?" said Vandali. "Yes, Vandali-sama," Eleonora replied. "Ah, a journey with just the two of us." "No, Eleonora. You're going to be waiting at the tunnel, you know." Though this was an unlikely scenario, it would be troublesome if the town's gates had anti-vampire defense mechanisms in place. Even if Vandali didn't take this into account, he also had to be wary of the information network of the pure-breed vampires who worshipped Hiroshikaka, the evil god of joyful life. He also had to be wary of things like the magic items that allowed the pinpointing of the owner of a blood sample. However, he had come to the conclusion that there would be nothing to worry about this time. He didn't know how extensive the vampires' information network was, but they would never expect him to be able to reopen the tunnel. Also, they didn't seem to be such a large and careful organization that they would have people hiding in every town and village. There would be some informants in major cities, but it seemed that they wouldn't have any in regular towns and villages unless there were some special circumstances. At the very least, this was how the information network was arranged in the Empire and Mage Shield Nation according to Eleonora's knowledge. And as for the magic items, they were seized during the defense of Talersheim. Even if there were more of the same items, they would be running low on Eleonora's blood, which was necessary to operate them. And even if they did encounter subordinates of the pure-breed vampires, Vandali was confident that he would be able to dispose of almost any of them. "That's how it is, so let's go," said Vandali. "Have a safe trip, Vansama," said Tara. "Please make sure you come back to me." "Tara, Van is going to come back to us," Bazdia reminded her. "Botchan, please use me, Sam, as your legs in your next journey," said Sam. And so, the whole nation saw Vandali off as he and Eleonora departed Talersheim for the Hartner Duchy. 3 days were spent flying while being occasionally attacked by pteranodons and bird-type monsters, and then 3 more days were spent to pass through the tunnel that Vandali had turned into golems in order to repair. Vandali ordered the golem sealing the tunnel's exit to step aside and finally arrived in the Orborn kingdom that he had set his sights on so long ago. There was nothing at the tunnel's exit other than a sparsely forested plain with the remains of a road on it. However, it had apparently been a magnificent highway 200 years ago when the Hartner Duchy was trading with Talersheim, but there were only traces of it left now. "If we travel east for 3 hours, the city we are headed for should be the, but I wonder if it's still the?" said Eleonora. "It's apparently a city of several thousand, so it probably is, isn't it?" said Vandali. "There should be areas inhabited by people at the very least, since the Hartner Duchy shouldn't have fallen to ruin." "Well then, you wait here, Eleonora. I'll use the communication undead to contact you." "All right. But will you be fine on your own?" asked Eleonora. "It's fine. I can do this alone," said Vandali. Should he have added, "you know," to the end of his sentence? As Vandali asked himself this foolish question, he left the worried-looking Eleonora behind and set out walking along the remains of the road. He was actually accompanied by a large number of spirits, so he wasn't really alone, however. In addition, the golem sealing the tunnel's exit was camouflaged and set to only open when the password was spoken. The password was, brains flying sideways repeatedly. It wasn't something that would ever be spoken by coincidence. And simple accommodation had been built inside the tunnel near the wall. Eleonora was to stay there and wait for the ninja unit that would be coming afterwards. "I suppose it's about time," Vandali murmured to himself. Walking through grass that was taller than him had become bothersome, so he was using flight to fly over it silently. If it weren't for the luggage he was carrying on his back, it was possible that he would be mistaken for a ghost. Though this wasn't the reason, sometimes goblins and giant ravens with 1.5-meter wingspans attacked him. Vandali quickly repelled them. He didn't need any particularly clever plans to defeat rank 1 or 2 monsters. Of course, he couldn't gain experience points because of his curse, but this was a trivial matter that he wasn't concerned about at all. Goblins wielding tree branches charged at him with strange cries. Vandali let out a strange, unmotivated-sounding cry in response as he disposed of them by throwing rocks at them using the throwing skill that he had acquired after training with the ninja unit. About 1 in 5 of the rank 2 giant ravens gives me a magic stone, though. If I could get them, I could at least use them to pay the toll fee. In the Barngaya continent, it was normal for towns and villages to charge a toll fee to enter them. As Vandali had no bombs, the currency of the Orborn kingdom, he had included salt in his luggage as a substitute. He had given up on the idea of using the magic stones and materials of high-rank monsters, as people might cause a fuss and wonder why such a young child would possess such things. The Hartner Duchy had no seas and no rock salt to mine, so he had brought valuable salt with him. If a rock salt mine has been discovered in the past 200 years and the value of salt has dropped, I suppose I have no choice but to hunt monsters. Or perhaps Vandali would look for non-monster rabbits, which he hadn't done in a while. Come to think of it, the fresh rabbit blood that Mom gave me was delicious. Immersed in his memories, Vandali beat yet another goblin to death and pressed forward. A distant wall made of stone came into his view. I can finally see it. But there's quite a lot of moss and ivy growing on the walls, even though I heard from Borkus and the others that this was quite a prosperous city. This was the commercial city that had connected Taylorsheim and the Hartner Duchy together. It had been constructed hastily after commercial trading between the two began, so its history was shallow, but Vandali had heard that it had been a lively city. Perhaps because of the commercial trade disappearing with Taylorsheim's destruction, the city had gone into a decline. In fact, Vandali got the feeling that there were too many monsters like goblins and giant ravens near the city. He hadn't been near a normal town since Ivbigia, so he couldn't be sure, though. It couldn't possibly be just a ruin now. Succumbing to anxiety, Vandali used the Detect Life spell across a vast area. He detected over 1,000 responses in the center of the city. It seemed that the city had declined, but hadn't become a ruin. There were a large number of reactions that were stronger than the average person's, but they were probably adventurers and soldiers who had been stationed there. Ah, that's good. Letting out a sigh of relief, Vandali set his feet back on the ground and began walking towards the city's gates. As he did so, the gatekeeper that noticed him began to make a noise that sounded like "jejjja." Vandali had stopped using flight so that he wouldn't startle them, but it seemed that this was pointless. The gatekeeper with dark green skin, a long nose, long ears and slanted eyes Let's face reality, Vandali told himself. That's a goblin. Judging from the fact that it was raising its spear, it seemed to be a rank 2 goblin soldier. On the other side of the doorless gates, there were countless goblins pointing in Vandali's direction and shrieking as they ran towards him. There was one particularly large goblin who was the size of an adult human among the other chest-high goblins, letting out a shriek. Unlike the other crudely armed goblins, it was equipped with proper armor, a shield and a halberd. It seemed that this was a goblin king. Wow, this is the first time I've met a king other than myself, said Vandali in a monotonous tone as he released death bullets. And so began the battle between the two kings, the Ghoul King and the Goblin King. Name, Vandali. Race, Damper. Dark Elf. Age, 7 years old. Title: Ghoul King, Eclipse King, Taboo. Name: Job, Venom Fist. User level, 20. Job history, Death attribute: Mage, Golem Transmuter, Undead Tamer. Soulbreaker attributes: Vitality, 184 mana, 328,120,344 strength, 128 agility, 130 stamina, 119 intelligence, 761 passive skills: superhuman strength, level 2 rapid healing, level 4, level up. Death attribute: magic, level 6, level up. Status effect: resistance, level 7 magic resistance, level 1 dark vision mental corruption, level 10 death attribute: charm, level 6 chant revocation, level 4 strengthen followers, level 8 automatic mana recovery, level 4, level up. Strengthen subordinates, level 4 venom secretion, claws, fangs, tongue, level 2, level up. Enhanced agility, level 1, new. Active skills: blood sucking, level 6 surpass limits, level 5 golem transmutation, level 6 no attribute magic, level 5, level up. Mana control, level 4 spirit form, level 6 carpentry, level 4 engineering, level 3 cooking, level 4 alchemy, level 4, level up. Unarmed fighting technique, level 4 soul break, level 5 multicast, level 5, level up. Long distance control, level 6, level up. Surgery, level 2, level up. Parallel thought processing, level 5, level up. Materialization, level 4, level up. Coordination, level 3, level up. High-speed thought processing, level 3, level up. Commanding, level 1 farming, level 3, level up. Clothing, level 2, level up. Throwing, level 3, new. Unique skills: Godslayer, level 2, curses, experience gained in previous life not carried over, cannot learn existing jobs, unable to gain experience independently. Side Story Chapter 6, Kaido Kanata. Kaido Kanata was a half-Japanese American. His real name was Kanata Kaido. But almost nobody believed this when he told them, because both of his parents were of Asian descent, so his appearance was mostly Japanese. This didn't cause him to suffer any bullying, nor did it cause him to become noticed by others and become popular. His grades were average, with his athletic abilities being a little better than average. The differences in English in Japan and English in his home country actually made his grades worse. And, he lost his life in a terrorist bombing attack during a school field trip. Kanata, we're reaching the drop point soon. Kanata, who had been reminiscing about the past, came to his senses as the pilot called out to him. Got it, he responded as he checked over his parachute equipment one more time. In the past, he had once gotten full of himself and made a mistake that almost cost him his life during drop training, so he was sure to be particularly careful when it came to inspecting his parachute. Magic and cheat-like abilities people in Origin would call these gifts. During the 28 years that had passed since Kanata was reincarnated in this world, he understood that these gifts wouldn't prevent him from dying no matter what. Now then, let's hurry up and sterilize these terrorists, he said. Oi, Kanata, the mission is to rescue the captured daughter of the president, the pilot reminded him. Don't forget that. I know, said Kanata. By the way, do you think the president would be angry if I asked his daughter for her contact details? No comment. Also, Lady Hannah is only 15 years old. She's half your age, old man. I'm still in my 20s. I'm not an old man. Kanata protested. If including his previous life, he would be in his 40s, however. Is that right? Well then, hurry up and get going, Gungna. I hate that code name. Giving an exaggerated sigh in embarrassment over his code name, Kanata jumped out of the helicopter that was camouflaged with light attribute magic. When Kaito Kanata was reincarnated in Origin and awakened to his memories of Earth as well as his new powers, he became Kanata Smith. Though his last name was different, he had thought that the god had made unnecessary effort in allowing him to keep the same first name. He began adapting to his new environment. Origin resembled Earth other than the fact that magic coexisted with science. The number and shapes of the continents were similar and even the international situation was the same. This helped him to adapt more quickly. Though Kanata did his best not to use his cheat-like ability in order to keep them hidden, he didn't hide the aptitude for magic that he had been given. Unlike in his previous life, he spent an enjoyable, bright childhood as a prodigy. His parents were wealthier than his parents on Earth, and soft on their genius son, buying him anything that he wanted. He was always the center of attention at school, and by the time he entered his teenage years, there was never a period of time where he didn't have a girlfriend. It was truly smooth sailing. A dreamlike second life. It seemed like he would have a hard time with his studies from university onwards, but if he kept extending his ability magic, he would easily continue being a famous person. That was what he had thought. However, as he approached his late teenage years, he was reunited with the others who had been reincarnated in this world with him. Even the fact that I'm skydiving towards a house of terrorists with an assault rifle and combat knife, it's all because of that guy. Amamiya Hiroto. The world's hero, the leader of the 100 people who had been reincarnated here. Though Kanata possessed only one cheat-like ability, Amamiya Hiroto possessed multiple. He was a man with an overwhelming amount of power. He had been finding and gathering the other reincarnated individuals. He was a bastard straight out of American comics, with the ideal of using their powers for world peace. With great power comes great responsibility. It's the first time I've heard something like that outside of a movie. Come to think of it, how had that movie's sequel gone? For some reason, the Green Giant was more popular in Origin, so that hero hadn't been turned into a movie yet. Was it possible that using power alone to scatter your wizard enemies was more popular? There had been backlash from critics who complained that there was too much emphasis on ancient magic, however. Thinking about such things, Kanata opened his parachute and cast his magic whose incantation he had recited in advance. He manipulated the heat and atmosphere while refracting the light around him, making him appear transparent to the terrorists on the ground. He was essentially a mirage. Now then, this should fool them, or not. Holes appeared in Kanata's parachute one after another. Realizing that his parachute was being shot at from the ground, he cut himself free from it and fell near the suburb ruins that the terrorists had holed themselves up in. Amamiya Hiroto and the others who were reincarnated in Origin were, in Kanata's eyes, the worst. Hiroto insisted that the cheat-like abilities granted to them by the god were gifts and organized a rescue team that operated internationally. A team of heroes, so to speak. They dealt with natural disasters and fought mysterious undead monsters that appeared out of nowhere, made appearances in charity parties to sign autographs for children and went on television to give interviews. Even Kanata acknowledged that they had the ability to do this. He worked so hard that it would be impossible to believe that he had been a NEET on Earth, kicked out by his parents and was riding that ferry in order to go and live and work in a relative's factory. but Kanata wished that they wouldn't get him involved. He hadn't admired the protagonists of adventure or action movies, nor did he want to perform hard work and become covered in sweat and dirt for the sake of people whose names and faces he didn't know. He would have been satisfied with simply relaxing, being pampered by those around him and living an enjoyable life. The thing that he found difficult to understand was that many of his school friends from his previous life supported Amamiya Hiroto. Everyone was overjoyed at becoming superheroes. They happily traveled west to provide disaster relief and east to assist in criminal investigations. They rejoiced in their lives as they were hugely popular in the media. Of course, not all of them were happy. There were more than a few of them who found it troublesome to be exposed to the media. However, even they still supported Hiroto. They said that it was better to stay in a single organization so that the world's nations wouldn't use and exploit their special, non-magical powers in undesirable ways. Now that the organization had been created, being widely acknowledged and trusted by those outside the organization, the common people in particular, was more important than anything. That was what they said. Because the great majority of those resurrected here supported Amamiya, making objections would require courage, and apparently the governments of each nation had already been aware that Kanata possessed a special ability even before he reunited with the others. His name, face and mana seal, origins equivalent of Earth's fingerprints and retina patterns, were all already known. If he hadn't reunited with Amamiya and the others, it would probably have been people from the government appearing in front of Kanata instead. Amamiya said that gathering into a single organization and appearing before the media was to intentionally keep all information open so that intelligence agencies and criminal organizations wouldn't take advantage of them. But Kanata felt that his well-being was none of Amamiya's concern. In the group of 100 people reincarnated from Earth, his exceptional affinity with magic, his great talent and mana pool that was larger than other mages would be buried in the masses. He would go from being a genius to just another person. The only affinities with magic that Kanata had been given were his high aptitude for the fire attribute and an average aptitude for the wind attribute. The cheat-like ability that he had been granted was quite well suited for being used in the field. Because of this, he had been given the exaggerated code name of Gungna, but that's why I'm forced to risk my life in these secret missions without getting paid much. Just before Kanata hit the ground, he opened his spare parachute. Normally, it wouldn't have opened in time, but he used wind attribute magic to force it to open and reduce the impact of his fall. He somehow made a successful landing and rolled across the ground. Light, heat, mana, he whispered as he remembered the map in his mind. In the next moment, Kanata vanished. Well, I've only become transparent. With his field of vision surrounded in complete darkness, Kanata pressed forward, relying only on his memory of the terrain. Those damn terrorists. Did they get their hands on the latest mana sensors? Kanata suspected that his parachute descent had been noticed because the spell that he had cast triggered a sensor. That was why he had turned himself transparent to the naked eye, to heat sensors and to mana sensors. This was Kanata's cheat-like ability. Incidentally, he hadn't used this ability during his parachute descent because it required mana to use, and he had wanted to conserve as much as he could. The other reason was because he was rendered blind in this state, meaning that he could have collided with obstacles during his landing without being able to see them. He soon reached the building in which the terrorists were holding this nation's president's daughter captive. Detect organism heat. Undoing his ability and regaining his vision, Kanata used a spell that only detected the heat of living creatures to search the entire building. It also reacted to the small animals living in the surrounding wasteland, but he ignored all of them. There were 7 human-sized heat sources. 4 of them were moving around hurriedly. They were probably the ones who had noticed Kanata and fired their guns at him. The other 3 were all close to each other. However, 2 of them seemed to be sitting down. The other one was standing tall. There's no way that there are 2 terrorist guards sitting in chairs in front of a president's daughter who's bigger than me, is there? Kanata had seen a photograph. Lady Hannah was a small, 15-year-old girl. Even if she was in her growth period, this was impossible. Well, for now, I guess I'll get rid of those 4. Because he was unable to tell which of the 2 seated people was Lady Hannah, he decided to dispose of the 4 that were moving first. Structure, he whispered as he pointed his assault rifle in the direction of the heat sources and squeezed the trigger. There was a roar of gunfire, and the bullets passed straight through the walls of the building without making any impact sounds or leaving any traces. The terrorists, having noticed Kanata's detection spell, had already started to make a move, but then they suddenly collapsed and lay still. They had been shot by bullets that had appeared through the walls and floors without warning. This gunfire was truly Gungna. No matter what obstacles were in Kanata's way, his bullets would easily pierce the vitals of their target. It really is an exaggeration, though, Kanata muttered. And what's the idea behind making a code name associated with my ability? Building, metal. Kanata passed smoothly through the wall and floor to enter the building. In the next moment, he tightly grasped his resin-handled knife and charged through a wall into the room where the reactions of the other three had come from. Gungna? The large terrorist screamed, but the knife made short work of him. And then Kanata quickly checked the remaining two people. One of them was a female terrorist firing a gun freely at Kanata's back. Even in Origin, where magic existed, guns and knives were still the best options for making sudden counterattacks. Because magic needed incantations, they took time. The metal bullets passed straight through Kanata's body and pierced the large man, however. You're such a pretty woman, too. What a shame, Kanata said as he used his knife to return the favor to the Caucasian terrorist woman, whose face had turned pale upon realizing that bullets wouldn't work on her enemy. If the president's daughter wasn't here, I would have stayed in invincible mode and given them a punch. No, the second was a pretty woman who hadn't done anything. What a waste. Even though this was one of the few benefits of being made to engage in fights to the death. Who are you? Are you alright? I am Gungna of the Bravers. I have come to rescue you. Kanata made his identity clear, hiding his inner thoughts and adopting a gentlemanly manner. Bravers was the name that had been given to the team of people reincarnated from Earth after a certain incident. Their official name was the 100 Bravers. The 100 Heroes would be a terribly embarrassing name, wouldn't it? Now that I think about it, that was the cause for us to start accepting work that involves killing like this in addition to the rescue and support work, wasn't it? That was when they had gone to a secret research laboratory in a European military nation to exterminate one of the experimental subjects who had become an undead and gone on a rampage. They had accepted missions to exterminate the undead that occasionally appeared in Origin, as well as animals and people who had been turned into monsters by the influence of mana, on multiple occasions before that. But this incident was particularly memorable in various ways. First, the Oracle and Kuya, who provided predictions on what methods should be used to complete requests, had provided a very strange method of defeating this undead. They had to wait, completely defenseless, for the undead to come out of the laboratory. They had to avoid showing hostility towards it at all costs. Once the undead let its guard down, they would take it down with a combined, simultaneous attack. They had questioned the Oracle's sanity after being told to be defenseless before a dangerous enemy, but when they actually executed this plan, the undead let its guard down and was defeated in a one-sided fashion. Kanata had been truly bewildered, wondering what it was thinking, but things began to progress rapidly from there. That undead, or to be more specific, the mana of the person who had become that undead, had been the secret behind the new pharmaceutical products and medical treatments that the military nation had been exporting. Death attribute mana, which had never been discovered before. Kanata and the other Bravers had obliterated the only source of this mana from the face of the planet, leaving not even a single fragment of flesh behind. Of course, the exports stopped. New pharmaceutical products and magic items were impossible to create, and the entire world began competing to do so. And in the shadows, with the information extracted from the remaining data and the few survivors of the laboratory as a basis, each nation desperately tried to search for or create a second death attribute Mage. Kanata and the others were asked repeatedly whether they could use their gifts to recreate death attribute magic. Kuya, the oracle who was supposed to be able to answer this question, said that person was someone who shouldn't have existed in this world. In order to save him, we had no choice but to do this. And then he remained silent on the matter, feeling sympathy for a single guinea pig. This is why I can't deal with amateurs, Kanata had thought, but as more of the illegal research facility and its investigation on death attribute magic was exposed, he realized just how abnormal that undead's existence had been. If they hadn't killed it, it might have been them who would have been killed. At the very least, over half of those who had gone to the laboratory would have died. As Kanata attended mass at the church every week, he could sympathize with the undead a little. If death attribute magic was mastered, immortality would apparently become possible, but things had become a mess because of the powerful people who wanted to obtain that immortality and the religious people who refused to accept it. That was why the president's daughter had been kidnapped by terrorists, and that was why Kanata had come to rescue her. Huh? Why am I remembering this kind of stuff? Actually, Jeha? As Kanata suddenly turned around, blood came out of his mouth. How do you know my weakness? You're not the president's daughter. Hana, who had been clinging on to Kanata, had plunged her arm deep into his solar plexus. It wasn't something that the president's daughter was capable of doing. It's me, Kanata, Hana replied quietly as her appearance silently changed. The young Caucasian girl turned into an Asian woman in her late 20s. You metamorph? Why? It was Shin Mari, one of the people who had reincarnated from Earth, A woman who was supposed to be one of the bravest, with the cheat-like ability to transform into any kind of person. Mari responded with a mask-like, expressionless face, but there was hatred burning in her eyes. I made use of the terrorists in order to kill you. The real president's daughter is probably being protected in another place by now. In order to kill me? Why, I don't remember doing anything to be hated by you. To avenge my mother. Wait. Don't misunderstand. Kanata was unsteady on his feet and his body was reacting to his commands surprisingly badly, but he backed off and put some distance between himself and Mari. He cauterized his wound to stop the bleeding, desperately looking for a way to survive. It wasn't me who killed that woman, he said. It's true that I couldn't save her, and it's true that it was me who stopped her heart in the end. But she was missing her head, you know? It's because of me that your mother is living out there somewhere. If my mother was missing her head, can you explain why her cornea was transplanted into a mafia boss? Asked Mari, interrupting him. You piece of shit. As Kanata tried to crawl backwards away from her, she quickly raised her hand towards his head. This was the worst. Mari's metamorph ability was a terrible opponent for Kanata's Gungner ability. If Kanata was unwounded, he would still be able to somehow escape, but now that he had taken a fatal wound, it was impossible. Wait. Do you think that the others will allow this? There's no way you can keep this hidden, there's no way that the justice-loving Hiroto would forgive. Stop, I don't want to die yet. Kanata begged. That mother of yours isn't your real parent, she's just the woman who gave birth to you in this world, isn't she? And aren't we supposed to be comrades? No. Someone like you, who cut up my mother and sold her organs, is no comrade of mine. Kanata vaguely heard Mari's voice speak these words, but before he could reply, his consciousness was cut off. Kanata Smith, one of the 100 Bravas, known as Kaido Kanata on Earth. Discovered with a fatal wound, he was rushed into a medical facility. Treatment produced no real results, and 3 days later, he was confirmed as deceased. It was thought that the weakness of his gift was taken advantage of during his mission to rescue the president's daughter from terrorists. Kanata Smith was remembered by the people as the first casualty of the 100 heroes, and his death made a shocking impact on 98 of the 99 remaining Bravas. Chapter 68, The Hartner Duchy has gone through a decline. The levels of the unarmed fighting technique, venom secretion, claws, fangs, tongue, and blood-sucking skills have increased.
Okay, hello guys, I'm back. So, yeah, I'll just end it here because it's getting late, and yeah, sorry if I'm very slow in sketching. And this is just basically sketch. So like, not very sure why, but yeah, it's a bit taking some time to getting used to, I think, with my style. But we did really good progress today. I really love how we finished these two designs that I did here. So I made a witch who controls soul fire or something that's coming out of the ground. Skinniness is pretty much on point. I think I could have do something more different when it comes to the legs, but yeah, it's kind of stiff looking, but it does kind of works with the art style being jagged and sharp in all places, so I guess it does help. But let's see that in maybe in a few days when I see this again, if I can do something else. But right now I think looks really good already. I like how I did the feathers for her dress here. Yep, this maybe I should have pick up different pose really for this one. But at last, the style is good. Line art looks good, and actually it's not a line art because it's still a pencil brush. But yeah, I may say the strokes. Yeah, the strokes are good. There we go. That's the right term. So, yeah. Next is this. This is hot girl over here. Uh, she looks really spicy, and we are. Yeah, I enjoyed drawing her anatomy pretty much. It's basically for me, female anatomy is one of those works of art that really shows the beauty of creation. So this is really nice. Uh, so it's semi-realistic, it's semi-anime style. So it works really good together. The clothes just fits perfectly. Not too loose, not too tight, just right. Yeah. It was maybe we can. Yeah, I think the hairstyle looks really solid already. We just need to erase some parts. Yeah, that would go. That looks good. Okay. I could totally like put this in a different canvas. Start putting line art on this and colored it because I think it's really good. It's nice to make it as a illustration or something. It's nice. Okay, so for the next two, the last two, hopefully I can do this really quick next week so that I can have more time to start sketching with the animals. But let's just see if I would improve with my speed. Need to be more aware with my decisions. I kind of uh, second guess myself when I was doing the clothes. Kind of went through uh, some models and some other sketches that I've saved in my Pinterest. Uh, I'll definitely next stream. I'll definitely prepare the costumes that I would like to draw for this too. Mm, I want this to be more like a kid style. Well, this would be. I'm debating to try using a kimono clothing for Japanese or a sailor uniform, a black sailor uniform maybe. Yeah. Well, it depends. I'll see what I can do when the idea comes up when I start drawing this. But anyway, this is pretty much what I finished for today. And for the story, like I said earlier, there were a lot of uh, data that was written there by the author. It was kind of interesting to go around and learn more about each character, about their personalities, their stories and stuff that we're not aware of. If you were not paying too much attention of each character, a brand new character that you have been introduced or something, it's really helpful. But for the rest, about the monsters, the skills, yeah, I went and skipped it up because it might have caused too much boredom for some people. Yeah, the characters were forgivable, but I think the skills and the monsters were just too overkill, too redundant to my taste, and to most people probably that would be listening to this. So yeah, I went and skipped it up, and so we move on to 67, and so far we learned now that Vandally managed to stabilize the city where the Titans and the ghouls are, and so it's nice now that he has managed some of the undead that he just recently got, including the vampires that attacked him also. He turned them to zombie vampires. If that's really a thing, it's very interesting that there's actually a zombie vampire now in this story. And so they're under his jurisdiction. They are also been given to, what's her name again? The first vampire girl that she, uh, it's it's a bit of my tongue, sorry. I'm really bad at names. So yeah, the good girl, the first vampire girl that Vanelli was contracted with. So they're all under her now. And uh, once again, Vanelli uh, started making some new food. He actually made ramen. How I wish I could do ramen. I'll make ramen on my own, but the procedure is so long. So I'm kind of envious that he has that skill. So yeah, it's nice that he has uh, the ability to cook ramen now, and they're really enjoying it. Kind of jealous, but yeah, I might go and find some ramen shop this coming week. Eat some ramen, because ramens are really delicious. But yeah, anyways, other than that, the yeah, they progressed the story now that he is finally like stabilized the place where he was living. He finally went to the Orban Kingdom, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the neighboring country, the near the Taylorsheim. Yeah, now I finally remember the city of the Titans. It's Taylorsheim. Yes. So, anyways, he managed to find a city. Yeah, the near town that was actually built for the trading system there. But it turns out the goblins were actually now the new residents of the old city, the old town. So kind of sad that he didn't manage to find humans first instead he found goblins, monsters, at the very first thing that he or when he went out from the from his own for his own. So there we go. Okay, so we'll look forward for more of his adventures now that he is outside his kingdom. Let's see what will he encounter. But back to the gods, like the last time, we have learned some really crucial and I might say very bad traits as godhoods in this story because they literally sucks. Especially Rod Courtney. When it comes to problems that he makes, he doesn't really like care of anything. That's the main thing about the guy. He doesn't care. As long as it doesn't affect him or do something about his system that he's been taking care of, he doesn't care of anything. That is the main reason why when he resurrected Vandal, he doesn't care that he was going to force Vandal to suicide through sheer depression. It's kind of sad that there's something like this guy acting as a god and trying to be not being caring to the souls that he is trying to reincarnate to other planets, to other worlds. It's like without any compassion and thinking about the situation of each soul that is about to be reincarnated. It's like, wow, that's just pure stupidity. It's like, oh, well, I know that each individual that could live in the world can have their own circumstances and could choose on their own because we have free will. But it's just still kind of stupid that he doesn't care. And also the other god, the guy who stole the goddess authority, the one that still advocates for just making the world stay the same, usually the same way that he wants it to be. Doesn't like progress, and that's like just countering everything that humanity should or humanity are, because humanity is a group of progress. So it just really defeats his like the laws of his world if he doesn't want any progress to happen. So, well, anyways, that's the problems of their gods over there. So there will be in the near future there will be other gods that are even more ridiculous, I think. So let's just see what will happen in the near future in the story. And yeah, uh, yeah, I'm looking forward to what will happen to Vandalay now that he's outside the city, Taylor Sham City, and finding out what happened to Boko's daughter. Yeah, uh, because she's supposed to be the princess, supposed to be the current ruler of Taylor Sham if she's there. But yeah, they're going to search for her, and uh, definitely Vandalay going to register as an adventurer. Let's just see if that will happen. And yeah, okay. So I'll leave it here for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. And if you, once again, would urge you to leave a like and subscribe. It will really help me a lot. And I will know if people are indeed entertained in this kind of, uh, you know, just sketching and drawing in using Clip Studio Paint. If this would really help you guys, I hope that yeah, you will show your support by giving a like or uh, yeah, or leaving a comment might be an interesting uh, you know interaction with you guys also, so that I will know what I should do. I do notice some people that are going through my streams sometimes during live, but yeah. Anyway, thank you guys again for watching, and see you guys next time. This is your boy Shrimp signing off. Peace.